Good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And listen, for the next 2 hours, folks, we have three amazing topics to keep you occupied and entertained. Of course, we have our brothers here, obviously C Money, Daniel McGee, and of course, Infinite Umbra. And we're going to keep you entertained, talking about anything and everything Xbox. And one of the lead topics of the day is going to fact that it has been projected that Microsoft is going to leapfrog over PlayStation with revenue. Some people are poo-pooing it. Other people said that there was some Jez Corden did a story, and when you combined Xbox Game Studios and you combine what's happening with Activision that they now own, they, for the first time ever, will have made more money, projected to make more money than PlayStation. That is a really big deal. And Tom Warren of The Verge, a good friend of the community, great friend of the community, I even dare say, had something quippy to say to Jez Corden. We'll get into exactly what he said. I think they're just poking fun at each other. There was nothing really to it. We also are going to be talking about, let's see, what do we have on tap today? Let me just pull up the DM. First of all, let's welcome in our panel as I bring up the topics. And we'll start first with Daniel McGee. Hi, sir. How the heck are you? How you been?
Pretty good. I woke up today and my hair decided to go big mode. So I'm trying to figure that out as we speak. We're going to have to figure out what that's all about.
Oh, big mode.
Listen, at least you have hair, brother. I'm growing all my hair in because I have a style that I want to do, and I have to have a full head of hair to do it. And you'll see it once it's done. I have to grow my hair for another month or so, and I'll have it fully grown in, and I'm going to do some shaving techniques and get it to where I want it to get to. So
you should just go for this.
That. Yeah, I'll debut that.
You need the Danny goatee too, though. You gotta get the whole thing. Let's go full on. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. And you know what, C Money? Good morning. Well, actually, good afternoon now. How the heck are you, kind sir?
Doing well, man. Doing well. I am thankful to be here. I'm excited. I got some fun topics. Just living our best life, doing some fun stuff on the channel. Living that Twitter warrior life, apparently. Can't post nothing without getting smoked nowadays. So,
listen, the old saying is if you swim with the great whites, occasionally you're going to get nibbled on. So, I mean, that's that. Listen, I don't feel bad because I try to put out great tweets that are, welcoming and engaging, and I get a ton of shit for it. So it really doesn't matter. People are just people. Some are gonna disappoint you. Some are going to surprise you. All I can say is never let any of it get to you, because at the end of the day, it's just words, and unless they're putting hands, then there's no real big deal. But I'm glad to have you here, brother.
Bro. Absolutely, thank you.
And last but not least, Infinite Umbra, one of the best voices in the business, kind sir. Good morning, and it is certainly good morning to you, because in Chi-Town it is 11 a.m. Here in New York it is 12 p.m. How you feeling?
My faith is strong. I will not fail.
I love it.
Oh, my voice.
I
actually have a bit of a cold right now. You all might be able to hear it. I have a bit of a head cold. So
yeah, I just got over being sick. I had a sinus infection for 2 weeks. It was disastrous.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's COVID. I hope it's not.
Oh, Christ. I hope not.
I haven't lost my sense of taste or anything, but it's a bit of a body shivers, a little small fever that went away. But other than that, I'm okay. Just a stuffy nose, and my voice will sound a little, stilted, like I'm holding my nose a little bit when I'm talking.
Yeah. I mean, listen,
isn't that going to help you for your role?
Yeah, it might help. Yeah,
I feel like it's going to just cement you into it.
Yeah. It might help.
Look. Well, first of all, I'm glad that you're here, because obviously, if you're not feeling well, you take off, and you just, we will reconvene when you're feeling better. But I'm glad that you're here. Folks, two of the other topics that I want to get into is one involving the notorious Jeff Keighley. He put out a tweet that was calling for what appears to be a truce with the gaming industry, as well as the gaming verse, which is us, the community, right? We interact with him, he interacts with us. To be fair, I don't like the way he sometimes does things. I've said this before, and I will stand on this stone. I feel that Jeff Keighley is important to the industry because he has done a lot of really good things for gaming, and I could never take that away from him. I do not like some of his practices. I will stand on that square as well and not be moved. Sometimes he does things for engagement. Sometimes he does things that are a bit of a head scratcher that seem very console war-y, if you will. And in someone in his position, I don't think that is really good business because he is expected to present himself and conduct himself as a leader. And sometimes he just doesn't do that. So the first topic of the day is a tweet that he put out there that got a lot of traction. And it goes on to say, there have been so many great games in 2023. I wish we could get past the rhetoric that a game not nominated in this category is unworthy or bad. It simply didn't make the cutoff in a highly competitive year. Even if a game wasn't nominated, maybe it was number 6 or number 7 in voting. Now, this had over 1,000 responses. It had over 807 retweets and 10,000 plus likes, as well as 206 bookmarks. So here's the thing. Peter Ovo, who is someone on Twitter that is an Xbox fan. Peter is someone that is, I think, highly regarded by many people on social media. And he says that there wouldn't be outrage if your nominations weren't terrible. Some games had no business being nominated where they were. And those are the mistakes that we're talking about. But, as much as, like I said, I do incredibly respect and appreciate, because I follow Peter and I do use a lot of his tweets out there for stuff. I kind of want to just roll it back and talk about Jeff Keighley. And I'm going to go first here to Infinite Umbra. Infinite, I go to you first because you have on your show on The Fix with Danny have talked about this particular subject. Maybe not exactly this subject, but somewhere around there where we've talked about Jeff Keighley. And, obviously there's been a lot of smoke for particularly this year because of how well Xbox did with first party and how underrepresented they are in these awards. Now, again, this is not us crying. This is not us complaining. The awards are where they're going to be. The nominations are out. There's no changing it. It is what it is. Starfield may not be your game of the year, but it is my game of the year. In fact, I'm about to roll credits on it right now, and I'm about closing in on close to 5.5 days. I didn't rush to beat it because I'm really having a great time with it. So Umbra, when you hear him put this out there, it almost sounds like he's waving the white flag because the rhetoric that might have been started with some of his tweets got a little out of control. What are your thoughts on his calling for the truce, if you will, or sounding the alarm for, hey, we gotta calm down, folks, take it easy?
I don't think it was him waving a white flag at all. I think it was him using that as promo for the VGAs.
Okay.
Jeff doesn't care about what we're talking about. I've seen so many people go at that man and say such harsh things to him. He does not care. All of that, the old saying about no publicity is bad publicity or whatever.
Yeah.
That's how he uses it. Yeah, look at all the quote tweets and all that you just mentioned. That's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of interactions that people would have seen what he talked about and came back to him. And all of it is an effort to promote the VGA. So I think he purposely, he knows that a lot of this is going to upset people, how they do what they do. I think the bigger problem is that, for me at least, and I commented on that tweet as well, was he said it could have been 6th, it could have been 7th. And I said something along the lines of, so Hogwarts Legacy came in 6th or 7th in every single category possible. And I put the face like
yeah. Now,
like,
did he happen to respond to you?
He didn't say a word because he knew I was right.
Yeah.
So what could he say? What could he say? Oh yeah, well, like, we all know that those judges conspired to say we're going to exile this game. We're not going to give it anything. And I think that is a problem in itself, and it opens the floodgates. It opens the door for a lot of doubt and misbelief, or not misbelief, doubt and doubt is the best word, I guess. Doubt, it leaves a lot of doubt for what they do behind the scenes, and it doesn't leave us to to trust the process of what they're doing already. Then you have the other issues with like Ovo, like you pointed out, with a lot of these being nominated that, you know, shouldn't have been there, like Cyberpunk, for instance, and Best Ongoing, or that coach, for instance, who didn't even coach this year, literally coming out saying, hey, I'm not on there. I didn't coach this year. Why am I on this list? So stuff like that is what hurts I think it hurts that the professional side that Jeff is going for here.
Yeah.
And it hurts the credibility of what he's trying to put forward. And I think we all know by this point that the VGAs are just a big commercial, a big ad and such like that. And he uses it as a way to try to make it like the Oscars for him. That's why he has so many famous people there. But if we're going to take it serious, the problem I have with it is that he's focused too much on that end and not enough on the gaming end. And, you know, I think they need to retool how they do what they do as far as who gets to vote and the nominees at the very least, because there's nothing he could say about Hogwarts. I was actually more upset about Hogwarts being snubbed the way it was than Starfield, because Starfield, I guess, is hit or miss. Believe it or not, I was more upset about what they did to Hogwarts, because that showed a very big lack of integrity.
Well,
right?
You know, it's funny you say that, and I want to put this out there. I'm obviously posing this question to the chat as well as to everyone on the panel. You know, Everborn Saga put out a tweet that was asking a question but being sarcastic at the same time, and he said, "Are we made to believe that Hogwarts being completely wiped from the face of 2023 for this awards? We don't know how it's going to go with other awards. I want to see what happened with the BAFTAs. I want to see what happens with some of the other bigger awards. Obviously, it's up for an Oscar regarding its sound score, which that's a pretty big deal.
I think that's a Grammy.
Oh, it's a Grammy. I said Oscar.
Yeah, it's not an Oscar.
Grammy, yeah.
There was other ones.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. But what he said was, are we really made to believe that if this could happen to Hogwarts, this couldn't happen to Starfield or something else? And you see, it's that doubt that he made there that you actually are talking about, that suggests that, you know, you made the Game Awards, right? And in your mission statement, your Game Awards, and shout out to Keosante, he says it's listed as the Game Awards, meaning that you are there to represent all of gaming, not parts of gaming that you see fit and others don't.
Absolutely. And there's no room for you to put your agenda in. That's the biggest problem, is that the agenda is, you know, and people's bias because of whatever. It's like, don't bring your politics into this. Vote the game off based on, does it deserve the merit or not? And that's the biggest problem. If a game deserves its merit, then nominate it. If it doesn't, then don't. Just that simple. Anything else, leave your stuff behind the scenes and how you feel behind the scenes. I was alerted to a Jeff Grubb, and I'm sure he's as you would say, a friend of the show. And I got love for Jeff. I really do. I think Jeff is a good guy. Me too.
Jeff's a good dude. Jeff, listen, I've been for he and I would like to say we're good friends. I don't talk to him as much as I'd like to. He's been on the show several times. Jeff's a really good dude. He's a fun, really good dude.
Jeff Keighley's been on your show?
No, Jeff Grubb.
No, not Jeff Grubb.
See, Money was like, well, I wasn't around. I wanted to get
No. Jeff doesn't even know who I am, which is perfectly fine. We've talked. He's come back at me on a question on the socials, but we've never talked like in DMs or anything. He doesn't even know who I am, and that's fine. The show's too small.
Yeah, but Jeff Grubb I think is a good guy. So I say this not to disrespect him, but he put his politics in front of Hogwarts too.
He kind of did. Yeah.
And I heard some things behind the scenes I'm not going to say about whatever, and I don't want to betray anybody's trust, but that he used that against them because they were playing that game, and he was like, I'm not going to come on their show anymore. So I was like, really?
Oh wow.
Yeah, so like he was really anti Hogwarts as well because of the whole controversy with J.K. Rowling. And I'm like, I'm still, for the life of me, I cannot understand how can you take something from somebody else and then apply it to all these other people that have nothing to do with that. That's problematic for me.
Okay,
for that
so
alone.
what I've heard, and I don't agree with this, folks, is J.K. Rowling's getting paid. but she owns the IP. That's life, right? Because you don't agree with her. Like I said, whether you agree with what she said or you don't, right? I don't care which way you go. What we're suggesting and what was done was ultimately that a game that hundreds of people worked on for what I think 5 or 6 years literally is unworthy of even a mention because the owner of the IP, someone that literally and figuratively had nothing to do with the creation of this game outside of owning the IP, I don't know how you can justify that. I don't care who you are. Jeff, and like I said, Jeff's entitled to his opinion. I disagree 1,000%.
Yeah, it's I feel like there are times where you have to stand up for your beliefs. I believe. I'm not saying that he shouldn't. Right? I'm a pro-black guy. I'm not saying like if it was something that was anti-black, then I'm be like, oh, I gotta ignore that. But my point of it is it's misguided. This right here has. If it was J.K. Rowling herself that did it, I'm like, okay, I get it. I get that she worked on this. You don't want to support her. But it's her IP. It's nothing you can do about that. It's the the wizarding world of Harry Potter. People love Harry Potter. It doesn't
Fans
matter.
still deserve to get a good game.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
And these devs. I mean, I think you pointed out on C when you were on our show last week, where these guys did something where this was well beyond their means as what from games they used to make. Like that was a leap from that to this, and for them to be ignored after making such a magnificent leap with details of that world, the sound, the music, all of that, to be ignored and written off because somebody feels a way about J.K. Rowling. I think that's just the lack of integrity for me right there just bothered me so much.
I think part of the problem with that is that like the reason why people felt so strongly about that in particular is just because she's such a like front-facing individual, right? Like she's out on Twitter saying stuff. Like she's out there saying stuff every day, and so you hear about it constantly. Whereas I mean, realistically,
maybe don't follow her.
If you
know what I'm saying, don't follow her, and you're good.
Well, I mean, you're going to find other people who are talking about it too. But if you look at several other vectors of the games industry, you're going to see a lot of other equally as bad, if not worse, things, right?
Yes.
Like Nintendo has like 10% of their stock owned by Saudi Arabia. So every time you buy a Nintendo game, there's money who's going to the Saudi government. Or is it Tencent? It's one of them. I think it's Saudi.
I think it's Saudi Arabia.
I think it's Saudi. That's the thing that popped up recently.
Like there's all kinds of things like this. Like there are so many of the products that we look at and we buy and we use every single day are made or owned by just horrible companies, right? Like the iPhone. Like so no one asked about where the lithium for those batteries is coming from. No one asked where those phones are being manufactured, right? Like a lot of things are really, really bad. And I think that the reason people are really standing on their spot specifically for JK is just because it's like it's a more like digestible, easier thing to be like, she said this thing, I don't like her, as opposed to like, I hate this company because they worked with Saudi Arabia and they did like, it's a 1-to-1 where they can just be like, this is the line I'm going to draw. And I think that it's kind of short-sighted. I think it opens up a lot of room to be like, well, what about this? Like there's always going to be those like whataboutisms.
Yeah.
But again, like this is kind of the problem. One of the many problems with the Game Awards is that because of the way that the voting is done and how unclear it is, like exactly how that works and who votes and all that stuff. There's no way of looking at it and being like, who are the people who are making this decision exactly? Because it is in this scenario.
That's the real question, Daniel. See that's what we don't know, and that's the missing transparency for the Game Awards. Because, if you want my opinion, Daniel, I think it has to come from the top, and if the top is Jeff, that is Jeff Keighley making the decision to erase this game. Because he's I would imagine he's the one that says, okay, this is what we're going to do. These are the categories. Him and his team, right? That this is what I'm assuming. I don't know. I don't have a Game Award, so I couldn't tell you. And maybe him and his team say, okay, these are the games that are being nominated. This one That's off the board. Take the eraser, it's gone. It doesn't exist. So maybe that's just a Jeff Keighley problem. I really would wish he would come forward and be like, yeah, it was on me, but he would not be able to take that smoke.
No, instead he's doing the opposite thing of being like, oh well, I didn't vote on it, which I think is a little cowardly. Personally, I think that if you're gonna open up, your friends, the people who you've asked to vote on this, to all this abuse, I think that you should be willing to stand in front of them and be like, it's my show.
You're the leader. You are supposed to lead.
They should just put it all out after. Like once the nominees are out, and not the nominees, but once it all gets because do all the outlets, when they submit, does that count as their vote as well?
I see, that's unclear to me. It's because they put in their nominees, and then that's like the ones who get the most or whatever, those are the ones that get voted on. But it's unclear to me if they also just go like, the one that got the most nominations, that's the one that wins, because they don't say that on their website. So I don't actually
it's also not 100% fan voted. Like, we don't vote for that.
No, the fan vote counts for like 10%.
Yes, minimal. Thank you, Daniel. That's absolutely correct. 90% of the vote comes from the panel of 120 people. 10% of the vote is accounted or equated to us, the gamers. That we have a 10% voice in the conversation, and that is it.
Yeah. So Jeff and his people are the only people who know what everyone voted, versus the people who voted, they just know what they voted. So there's no way to fact check whether or not people are actually getting accounted for the way they actually submitted it. What they should do is, after it's all said and done, come out and then post every outlet's their votes. What was every outlet's votes that went ahead and got submitted? That way everyone can be held accountable for their own votes, and they could know that, like, if you're an outlet that submitted, that your votes are actually counted, because look, this is where it is. And it will explain how the winners got nominated. You know what I'm saying? Like how the winners
I don't think that that's fully necessary, because I think that that's a solution to the symptom and not the problem, right? Because it's like, if you do that, then what you're doing is you're opening up all the people that you've brought onto your jury for just immediately getting shit on for being like, oh, I can't believe that you didn't vote this way, right? Like there's a very specific reason why polling is done in secret in government, right? Like, we don't need to know who everyone voted for. It's not important. What is important, I think, is that I think these awards need more guidelines for the voting jury. I think that it would make a lot of sense for them to, if they're going to do these genre awards, which the Oscars doesn't do, like, I don't think they do like best horror movie or best action movie. So if you're going to do that, I think that you need to set up a rubric of like, these games fit this genre and these ones fit this genre, so that we don't end up with a situation of like, I don't know. I feel like Lies of P probably got split a lot between people who were like, I want to nominate this for best action game because it's an action game, and people who were like, I want to nominate this for best RPG because it has a leveling up tree or whatever, even though it's definitely more of an action game than an RPG, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of these categories that I think just need more guidance, and maybe just a little bit more, I don't want to say hand-holding, but maybe hand-holding, because the way that it comes across right now is you look at a lot of the categories, and what it ends up feeling, or at least for me, is not like the people who are voting are corrupt, but it feels more like the people who are voting are just out of touch and like don't play certain genres or don't pay attention to esports or whatever. Because it's like, how do you nominate a guy who didn't coach? You know what I mean? Why are some of these games in some of these genres? Why are some of these things popping up in best ongoing when they did literally nothing this year, right? Like there's a lot of things like that where it's like, it becomes very clear that there are a lot of people on the voting jury who just like put in default answers for some of these because they didn't know what else to do. You know what I mean?
Oh, but I think you're essentially explaining exactly why the fact that it should be exposed at the end would solve that problem, because these people who are just out there selecting willy-nilly because they're hiding under the scope of not being known, that's what changed this, right? If you know at the end that things will be revealed, then you can't sit there and just do this cowardly way of voting where you can
I think
just
they
say whatever
still
you want. It
would.
would expose what it is. And the biggest problem is that we don't trust the system already, right?
Sure.
So outside of that, there's nothing that they could put in effect and even if they write it down, it wouldn't matter because we already don't trust them. So
Sure, but
it's
Jeff's
almost
not
like
gonna
in order
do
to
that.
build that trust, they have to go hard on the opposite way and find a way to create that trust, right?
Sure. And I think that there are a lot of ways to create that trust. I don't think revealing who everyone voted for is the correct way to do that, because all you're going to do is open up a lot of people to a lot of honestly bullshit that they don't deserve.
Well,
Like they're just
see,
people who are
and
voting.
They
that I
assumingly
ha-
would have
that I
already
have
gotten that being an outlet that's to the public anyway, right? So if they already
Well,
said
this
Starfield is
is-
trash,
It's less,
then they would
though.
have gotten
You know what I mean?
taken down for that already, or
for,
people
for,
would be
for
upset
like
at that
I
already.
said this the other day, for safety reasons, I don't think that it's a good idea to reveal who
Not
the
the
people
people,
actually
the
are.
outlet.
They
The
they they
outlet,
they,
not the
they
people.
could
Sure,
very
but
well.
a lot of the outlets are
But
like
like it
4
should
people.
be IGN. What is their top 5, or what did they vote for, right? Like it's not. I'm not saying put Bill from IGN. This is what he voted. No, I'm saying
and
the
for
outlet
IGN,
should be exposed and held accountable to what they're saying.
sure.
Yeah.
And maybe for IGN that would work, but you have to look at some of the other jury members and you're like, oh, well, if we get that for the Jeff Gerstmann show, we know that that's just Jeff Gerstmann. If we get that for Easy Allies, there's like, what, 8 of them? Like, we know who that is, right?
But that's
And
also so much power for
you're
Jeff
opening-
Gerstmann to have,
It
right?
is.
So he
It
should be
is.
exposed. You know what I'm saying?
don't
Like, I think
But
he should be held accountable because his votes count so heavy for just
Sure.
one man.
But you have to also keep in mind the fact that these are people that Jeff is putting trust in. Whether he should or not is a matter of debate for some of these. But it's a situation of like, if he reveals all of these votes, then a lot of these people are going to be like, well, then I'm not going to vote on it because like I trusted you to not do this. 2, like this is not. I can't think of a single award show where we know how everyone voted. Like we don't look at the Oscars and be like, oh, how did the Academy vote on this? Because most of the time we don't even really know who the people in the Academy
And
are.
most of the time, nobody
right?
really gives a shit what they voted.
Yeah.
I mean that too. That too. But to be fair, most people don't actually care about the Game Awards either, right? Like it's a marketing beat.
True.
Like that's all it really is.
I don't think they care
the
about
award
the
show
awards.
is
I
a
think
way of
Game of
roping
the
people
Year
in.
matters to people. I think everything else, for the most part, is whatever.
Maybe.
But I think, for the most part, not for the show. We don't care about the show itself, but we do care at the end who's taking away that crown, because we hear it every single year. Like, oh my god, I can't believe this person won, or yes,
why?
this person
Yeah.
won.
Right.
It's like the Metacritic debate, right? People like, I don't care about
Yeah.
Metacritic.
Like people don't care, but we care,
But we
right? So
care.
let's
Right.
not. We don't
Well, I
need to
think maybe
sugarcoat
that's
it. We
something
care.
that people are going to have to rectify inside their own psyches of like, I don't understand how you can not trust the system, not trust any of the people who are voting on it, and then still care what their opinion is when it comes down to the award. Because I've reached out to some of the people who I know in the games industry, and like, I'm not going to say they don't care about winning a game award because it's nice, they enjoy doing it. But when they're looking at like what's the award show that really matters, they all said DICE. Like every single one of them is like DICE is the one where it's voted on by my peers. That is the one where if I say I worked on a game of the year nominated game that was nominated at DICE, like that's going to help me find future jobs should I need one. Look at this year, people are losing jobs all the time.
But
You
even
know,
the DICE,
that is the
I
one
see people-
that has the credibility.
see-
That's the one that
I
is
see-
actually the Oscars of.
Well,
the
why is
games.
that? Why is there credibility there? Because
it's voted on by
those
the
are
people
just
in the
people
industry.
as well. But they're just people, right? We have
Sure.
people. We have these companies who choose. Like there's whole companies that don't want to deal with Xbox, so they make their games for PlayStation. Like there's the bias is everywhere. They're people too, right? They play games too. They enjoy their console too. So there's no difference. If you're getting voted on by a bunch of people, you make an Xbox game, and we already know that the majority of companies that not the bigger ones now, we're starting to see that shift, right? But the
Sure.
majority of people who are in those companies, even though the company might be shifting, those people didn't change. It's just the people who care about money realize that Sony's not the dude to get in bed with, because no matter how much we do it, we still lose C square, right? So
Yeah.
at
So
the
I
end of
don't
the
work
day,
in
those
the
people are
industry.
still that way. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
DICE is not immune to being biased, like
No
like
one's immune to
the
being
people who are
biased.
trying to do it. Yeah, but they try to frame
The-
DICE as if it's some holy grail of awards, when in reality, you're just it's actually
I will
worse.
say, in defense of DICE, C Money, it's the tip of the spear when it comes to awards, because you have to understand you're being, yes, there's bias everywhere. No matter what industry you're in, there's going to be bias. The difference with DICE is that they're not being led by the nose because they are PlayStation fans, like a Metro. A Metro
Right.
can come out and say, give a hard review on many Xbox games, and we scratch our heads, right? And you're like, well, F Metro, they're like the worst in the Inquirer. They're like the paper you put on your dog to pee on, right? That's what Metro is equates to. But they're still on Jeff Keighley's board to vote for Xbox games. They have to, so we know that they're not going to. DICE is different. DICE is people inside the industry that actually make these games, and they vote on it. Now, do they vote for their friends? I don't know. I mean, I would imagine.
I'm sure there's a little bit of it.
There's a little bit of that, but for the most part, that particular award show, same thing with the BAFTAs. The BAFTAs are also very, very prominent in the industry. But the Game Awards is like I said, this is not grown men crying about my game didn't get the award it deserves. It's just Jeff puts his tweet out. I thought it was worthy of a conversation because what he's attempting to do, and I read it differently than Umber. Umber thinks this is just an engagement tweet, and he might be right about that. For me,
I think there's definitely an aspect of that.
Yeah, for sure. It's engagement because that's what he does. But he also stokes the fire to get engagement, and sometimes he walks the line of console war rhetoric, something that he is asking not to be a part of the conversation. He has stoked those fires many times before.
He knows what he's doing.
Of course he does.
I mean, look,
he's
got people talking about the Game Awards for the last 2 weeks or whatever.
I mean, he knows,
right? He knows exactly what he's doing.
It's
a marketing genius.
He is feeding into it, and it's just what it is. Like, so let me bring it back real quick. What you said earlier, Boom, when you brought Everborn into it. When
his tweet was brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a dope thing. I mean, I am glad he watched the show, because that's exactly what I said to Paris when he was on the show, because that is 100% where it becomes ridiculous. You can't say that there's no bias, right? That doesn't exist. We're crazy. There's no bias against Xbox or any game, yet they can be biased because of J.K. Rowling's participation or lack of participation in this game, right? Like, that's just the reality of what it is, right? So if you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, oh my God, this bias thing, it's all made up, it's so stupid. Listen, if you don't care about it, you don't care about it. That's fine. But I would also suggest, like, you don't need to talk crap about the people who do care about it, right? Because everybody's entitled to their opinion and what they feel. And at the end of the day, it's annoying. It's annoying when you care about this hobby and you care about, the people who make these games and how you enjoy these games. And to know that if you work for Xbox, you're way less likely to be recognized for your achievement in what undeservingly is essentially looked at as like the biggest award show by the gamers, right? Even though shouldn't be, it just is what it is, right? Because they surround it with all those trailers, so people are pumped and hyped.
Yeah,
and
people go in.
People watch them, right? Yeah. So, but people watch them, so they see them, right? So even if they're not there for the awards, they see the awards because they're there for the trailers, and there's a lot more people there.
They see the 5 they actually give out, but yeah,
exactly. But that's the thing, right? Like, that's the issue with this. Now, our boy Keighley literally said 6 and 7, right? Why 6 and 7? Because he absolutely knows that there's 2 games that they 100% snubbed in this, and that's Hogwarts and it's Starfield. And that is just the reality of what it is. At the end of the day, he knew exactly what he was saying by saying that tweet. He was saying that, oh, listen, yeah, it got snubbed or it wasn't there, but I mean, it was right there, guys. Like, you guys clearly loved it all so much that it made it to number 6 and 7. Just not enough of you felt that it was higher in any category except for the one category that they gave to Starfield, because
participation
role-playing games that came out this year, the scope is a little more limited, right? So it's a lot harder to try to dodge the Starfield name, right?
Well, no, there were tons of RPGs that came out this year. They just also, again, didn't get nominated for best RPG because they put an action game in there. And like, I don't know. This is what I'm talking about, where it's just like these genre awards clearly need more guidance.
It's nonsense.
Yeah. Octopath
Traveler too.
Yeah. But you know, it
Yeah,
just
but
goes back
Octopath
to
was
the
not obviously that's a different scale, right? Like
yeah.
if you're like it's
Sure, but it's an
what I was saying
RPG,
is
and
that
Lies of
still an
P is
RPG,
not.
what I was saying is
regardless of
that they
whether
couldn't take the place of Starfield with that game, right? Like
True.
nobody's gonna
But they
say
could have replaced
Starfield
Final
goes
Fantasy
for
16,
that.
for instance, because Final Fantasy 16 is not really an RPG.
it's by
Outside
name
of the name.
only.
Yeah,
By name, it's an
that's
RPG.
it.
By actual definition of what you're playing, it's like Devil May Cry.
Exactly. And you know,
So
but the biggest
I'm
thing I
honestly
think why
surprised that
people
one got
care
that many
ultimately
announcements.
is because we respect integrity, and you expect integrity when it comes to
yes,
an award show. We might not get it. We might have been lied to and believe that's what it was all along. But when you can see it, that's when the illusion is dispelled. Right now, we can see the man behind the curtain now. So it's like once you see that, you can't unsee it. And once
yeah.
you know that
Mhm.
they pulled this with Hogwarts, there's no question about it. When it got no nominations across the board, we know that that was politics involved. So now you open the door for other doubt, for other things that you've done, other games that didn't make whatever cut. It opens the door for that, unfortunately. And I think that's what he should have made sure to avoid himself, is to say, hey, we have to, this is based on purely on merit, not on your biases of your politics or your agendas. That's what should have been the forefront, I think. And even if there are some who felt the way, not all 120 outlets were like, oh, we all hate Hogwarts. No, this was a concerted effort. And I think some people tiptoe because they don't want to offend the other person, I think,
Yeah.
personally.
That's probably true, but I mean, it is exactly what you're saying. I don't think it's like, oh, every single like I guarantee that Hogwarts got a handful of them. The problem is that even if there's like 10 that didn't put it in there for one reason or another, then like it's going to end up getting snubbed, especially in a year like this.
Yep.
So it is that thing where I guarantee that there's at least one publication who didn't nominate Starfield because they don't like Xbox, and I'm guaranteed that there's at least one publication that didn't nominate Hogwarts because of the way they feel about J.K. Rowling, right? And
Mhm.
Yep.
you know, that is what it is, right? It's I don't know. They're feeling a certain way about the game for reasons that are either not involved in the game or are kind of out of left field. And I understand them wanting to like take their stance of like, this is the way I feel about this thing. This is important to me. But at the same time, it's like, it does sort of hurt your credibility a little bit to be like, hey, this thing that happened outside of the realm of this video game is the reason why I don't like it. You know what I mean? Because we've seen from, I think it was Metro or whatever, where they were like, oh, I wanted to give this game a higher score, but I couldn't
Yes.
because
Xbox didn't have enough
it
first
has a
party
bad
games in
catalog.
their
And it's like,
lineup.
okay,
Yeah,
so you're
dumb.
voting.
Just dumb.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so you're taking points off of this, not because the game was bad, but because literally you just didn't like what Xbox had done this year. And it's like, okay, why? Like, that's not how that's supposed to work, but okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
And there's really nothing you
just
can
silly.
do to make Metro change the way that they do that, other than just like not engage with them, right? You can just be
Yep.
like, hey, that's dumb, and then you just don't use their website for anything. Their clicks go down, and then they have to go in and address like, hey, what is the reason why this keeps happening? Oh, because we keep hiring people that are saying really stupid things pretty consistently.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, again, we have two other really important topics to get to. We're already 40 minutes into the show. I do want to end it with this. Now, obviously, I've been touting Charlie Intel as one of my Call of Duty sources because, well, they are renowned on social media when it comes to Call of Duty. There's another one that I want to make mention of. Modern Warzone is another Call of Duty content creation unit. I'm assuming it's more than just one person. And this is just food for thought to kind of get you guys in the same headspace as the what's happening in gaming, right? What's happening in gaming with the media. And they say this in the tweets: Modern Warfare 3 is the best Call of Duty multiplayer we've had in years. Somehow is also the worst reviewed Call of Duty of all time. I don't understand it, especially when you compare it to scores to some of the other games, like, for instance, Vanguard. Do you think these reviews are deserved? So they happen to talk about PC Mag, which is one of the entities that gave a 7 to Starfield. And just out of curiosity, do you want to know what they rated Modern Warfare 3? 43 out of 100. They gave it a 43, folks. 43. I don't think in my 6 years of gaming, as content creation, I've ever seen a game given a 43, especially a Call of Duty. And this is from the same company.
I think
Not even
Gollum got
Ghost,
a 4.
right?
Oh, well, Gollum is if Gollum got a 40, then it's well deserved. I'm just saying that we're talking about big AAA games, but this is from the same company, and I say company because they're a big organization, PC Gamer. They also said this in a tweet: Microsoft celebrates its conquest of Activision and the triumph of capitalism with a montage video that mashes up Modern Warfare, Halo, Diablo, Starfield, and more. See, listen, I'm not trying to change your mind whether you think that there is bias in the gaming media or not. I know that there is. I don't trust the gaming media as far as I can throw them, and they're pretty big. But even though I'm a big dude and I lift weights for 3 times a week, I don't think I could throw them. Okay. So again, just some food for thought about, hey, they keep exposing themselves as we do not like Microsoft. They are getting too big. We do not like Xbox games. We do not like the fact that now Microsoft now owns Call of Duty. It is, again, say what you want about your single player. Maybe it wasn't for you. I really enjoyed it, and I put a significant amount of time in it. But again, I'm also not a Warzone player, so it didn't bother me having Warzone elements in there, especially finding all of these different guns in a map that I could do what I want when I found these items. I really enjoyed that. Maybe I'm a knucklehead. That's fine. But I'm just saying that when you hear a game like Call of Duty, and I said this even before they were acquired, I said even when they acquire, because I never doubted they would, you're going to see the first Call of Duty under XGS or owned by Microsoft is going to be the worst reviewed Call of Duty of all time. Now, you may think that it's not what you wanted compared to Modern Warfare 1 and 2, and maybe this was supposed to be a DLC and they kind of threw some things in there to make it a full-on package. However you think about it, it's fine. But this is the evidence that we're talking about, and this kind of rhetoric that Jeff Keighley wants done with is actually entrenched in the decisions that make that are responsible for putting games in the forefront at his particular award. I don't think what happens here is going to matter at the BAFTAs. I don't think what happens here is going to be an inkling at DICE. It's not. The Game Awards is basically a show pony. It's a lot of fluff. It's a lot of stuff. They show most of us only tune in for the trailers. But it would be nice to see, the people that actually make the games get their flowers. And this was supposed to be
exactly.
This is supposed to be, and this is his words, Umbra. He says this. This is a compilation of gaming at its best, supporting and showing love for your favorite game and your favorite team making the game. Those are his words, and that's not what it is. So when you see him out there and saying, "Oh, calm down, everyone. Can we just move away from the rhetoric?" You put that rhetoric in your Game Awards, and that rhetoric exists in the 120. Not everyone. Let's understand that. But there's a good portion of people responsible for making these decisions that actually are the ones creating this rhetoric, and you're asking us as a community to look past it. And I got to be honest with you, folks. Like I said, I'm not going to lose sleep over this because Starfield didn't get 9 nominations. It doesn't matter to me. It's still my game of the year. I can give a shit. But the point is that what people ask, well, boom, why do you guys talk about it so much? Because I don't like injustice. I don't like things just being spoon-fed to me, and I'm supposed to just take it. I'm a content creator. I don't do this for clicks. I do this because I actually really love the industry. I love this community. I love gaming, and I love my brothers and sisters that I get a chance to podcast with on a weekly basis. And I take this stuff real serious. So if I see something happening that I don't like, you bet your ass I'm going to say something about it. Now, if you disagree, we can have a conversation, but most of the time you're just not going to move me off that hill. We can disagree and still be friends. Anything you want to say? Good.
I just had a quick question. Let's say we go ahead and have these other nominees done for these other shows that we're talking about. If they also come to the same conclusion that a Hogwarts doesn't deserve to be nominated or a Starfield doesn't deserve to be nominated, does that take away the idea that the TGAs are biased against them? Or does that expose that bias might be more far-reaching than we anticipated?
I mean, it really would have to. I think that's that's a great question. It's also layered. I don't think there's an easy answer to that. I think you would. I think people are entitled to their opinion. If look, the truth of the matter is this: not every game is for every gamer, folks. Okay, what you find to be amazing and the best game you've ever played, I may look at it and be like, yeah, dude, that's just not my bag. Like for instance, you take me and Pong Soul, right? Pong Soul's an RTS dude through and through. That's his bag. I'm not an RTS guy. I'm gonna give Baldur's Gate 3 if it goes in the Game Pass the old college effort because maybe I will like it. And maybe I'll be introduced to something that I had no idea was my bag. And if you talk to him, he's through the moon. For me, I'm like, well, it looks really good, and see that's the other thing. Like even my personal list of games, the top 6. Baldur's Gate 3 was there, and I never played it. So you say, well, Bull, why is that? How could you rate that game? Well, because you have to rate a game based on what it's done for the gaming community, what it's done for the genre, what it's done for the platform that it's on. And Baldur's Gate 3 should, in fact, be celebrated. Larian Studios built that game based on the feedback of the people. Remember, this was an early access for years. And the final product that they put out there that is going to win most of the awards that it's in, including RPG of the year, because I don't think Starfield beats it. I think Starfield should beat it because I think that ultimately they are behemoths.
They're
But
definitely giving that to Baldur's Gate.
No,
Yeah,
they're definitely going to go.
100%.
No, there's no doubt about it. But I'm just saying that I put it in my top 6 because of what it actually meant to gaming. Just because I didn't play it and it's not my bag doesn't mean it doesn't deserve my vote.
Agreed.
Because you're a student of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like you're a student of the
Yeah.
industry. You understand that just because you don't have the particular taste, it would be
Doesn't mean this game shouldn't get its flowers.
Doesn't mean that it shouldn't
Sure.
get a spot in the conversation. Now, like Boom being a content creator, right? And you have a channel. So even though you're not being chosen to be like one of these 120 outlets, you know, you do have to answer with some common sense as you're representing your channel. So the idea of not putting BG3 on the list when you know that game deserves to be on the list, I get that.
I think it'd be disingenuous, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
But
I don't know, man. Because it's your personal list, right? So I think putting something you haven't played on there is like, why?
Because even though the game is not for me,
said.
it's still worthy of, like, for instance, what I see if I'm being asked to judge the year in front of me, and even though it's a game I didn't play, I think it's reckless to say, well, because I didn't play it, it doesn't exist to me. The game exists and it's played by millions of people. It's highly reviewed. Everything I saw about it is quality. Like I watched videos. I've watched people some playthroughs on it. I was like, let me see what this actually looks like. And I'm like, oh, yep, there's that RTS view. Not because when they're up close, like, my God, this is an amazing story. I could really get into this. And then they pull the camera all the way back to outer space, and you're like, oh, they're 2-inch characters. Not my bag.
Yeah.
Right. So even though it's a game that I haven't played, and you're asking me, because again, this is not my personal for my channel. This is when we had this conversation. What do I think the 6 nominees are going to be for game of the year.
I misunderstood the
yeah, no, it was not my top 6. My top 6 are going to be totally different from anyone else's for Double Barrel Gaming. I'm saying that when we had the conversation for what do I think the top 6 are going to be at the Game Awards, Starfield was one of them. Baldur's Gate 3 was another. I had Hogwarts I think I had a Hogwarts in my list as well because I freaking love Hogwarts, but look, at the end of the day,
it was one of my early game of the years. That and Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, when did that come out? That was like February or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
right after Hi-Fi Rush, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you know, I get what you're saying 100% there, and it's the same for me. I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 yet, but I will.
I'm not mad that it's nominated. Yeah,
and I feel like I can understand why. Yeah, we
also
get
Tears
why.
of the Kingdom for the same thing. Like I don't like Tears of the Kingdom, but I knew it was going to be nominated.
Yeah, exactly, because
I quite enjoyed it. I'm at the last boss before I fight Ganon, and I loved every second of it. And yes, it's very, very similar to the Breath of the Wild in many ways.
And that's the thing. Like, it's not just the prestige behind it, right? It's the pedigree behind that team. So you kind of get a feeling for, this is likely going to be nominated. I've seen some people have contention with Super Mario Wonder being there, but I mean, it is what it is, right? It is a well-made game. It scored very, very well. It is what it is. But my thing is like, I wouldn't even argue against that. I don't care if for instance, Hogwarts or my pick for game of the year, Starfield, isn't there. And much like you, Boom, Starfield meant a lot to me just because of the time I put it. Like, it's like C Money pointed out. He said it's an 8.5, but a 10 out of 10 for you. Right. For me, in my heart, it's a 10 out of 10 because of the enjoyment I got out of it. But it's being critical. It's an 8.5, right? It's 85 out of 100, whatever you want to call it. And that's just me being critical. Same thing I was with Spider-Man. I'm tempted to lower it even more and more I get mad about it, certain things. But I got it at 85 for Spider-Man. And my thing for that is to say, I think we could all agree that we're not going to all agree. We're going to have some games that are not going to resonate with us. I know some people who didn't like Hi-Fi Rush, and I was like looking at them like they were crazy. Like,
you beat that game 90 times. How dare you talk about my Hi-Fi Rush?
Don't you dare. But so I loved Hi-Fi Rush. I'm going to get back into it eventually soon. But I get why. But it does have 5 nominations, to be fair. But
no, it does. It does.
Which also more upsets me again with Hogwarts again, because it's like, come on, man, be fair. Give the game a nom for something, and not just as a participation, but because the merit behind it and the integrity that leads you to give that vote. You know what I mean? And so,
but it was super high quality, man. It was super high quality. You can't deny it, dude.
You can't.
It's crazy.
And that's the thing, because all that work these devs did, and they were inclusive as hell in that game. By the way, you can't argue they weren't. You know, they had inclusion, they had gay inclusion, they had all of that. So it's like, you can't, they have black people most black people I've ever seen in Hogwarts. But I was like, but I'm just saying, it's like they had all of this, right?
Well, it was well represented. That's what you want. This world is a horrible place. And we know that prejudice exists everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's really, look, folks, and it's coming from someone who's an ex-NYPD officer who built his career on community. Like, I was a community affairs guy. I was a youth officer. I worked with community hand in hand on everything. When you see inclusion like it was for Hogwarts, it's really freaking hard to accept that it just doesn't exist. Like, the game is just nowhere to be found when you see it's so much representation is going on, and it's amazing. And it should gaming should, first of all, the gaming community should, as a whole, and for the most part, is very, very welcoming. My particular community is, and I've been told this by many people, is one of the most welcoming communities in podcasting, and I'm very proud that we built this kind of an audience. But as great as that is, when you see that representation come to gaming, not like, for instance, when you start an Assassin's Creed game, right? What does it always say? The mission statement: this game was made by a multicultural staff with different religions and beliefs, and everyone is respected, right? And they mean that. That's their mission statement, right? But that's words. And then we see them, they put a lot of times into action through the stories that they tell. But Hogwarts did it. They included everybody, no one was shunned. And it goes, yes, it goes against what the author said, and they still made their game how they wanted to make it. So ultimately, that is the ultimate shun. That is the ultimate snub. That even though the author, who had nothing to do with the game, said some things that people didn't agree, or some people agreed. Listen, I don't care what side you're on, but the team made this game with this inclusion, and it was the paramount of what made this game so special. So I think ultimately that is one of the things that stands out the most, and it also turns a real nasty eye onto Jeff Keighley and the Game Awards, because you are supposed to represent all of gaming, and yet you handpick, and your 120 people, whoever they are, handpick who's allowed in through the velvet rope. That is the ultimate problem.
Yeah. It's just the process of how they do what they do.
Yeah.
You just got, there has to be integrity. That's why most of us get bothered. I don't think it's just that. Well, I'm sure some of it is, well, we want my game that I like to be there, but it's also a matter of some of these
principle is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Principalities in this, Smokey. So it's the principles, and it's the lack of what we see as a lack of integrity that really, at least for me, I can speak for myself.
100%.
That's what bothers me.
100%.
Yeah. But
nobody's crying if something doesn't win, right? Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't win, it doesn't win. It's like, the fact that it's not even there. Yeah.
Like, this is not some small little games, Hogwarts, Starfield. These are not tiny things that you kind of just look over like, oh, they did nothing. They did so much. And there's no way that they don't get a nom, man, especially when you look at what was given the nom, right? When you look at a remake being in there that shouldn't be in there, when you look at a Mario Wonder, which again, Mario's fine, but it's the 2D version. Come on, man. What boundaries are being pushed? What's the game of the year here? Come on, man. That's bull, right? Yeah. So you delete those two, you got the perfect two slots, Starfield, Hogwarts, right? Done. And then nobody cares about the list, right? I mean, I would say I don't think Spider-Man deserves to be there, but it is their only PlayStation game, so I get it. But I mean, that's the problem. It's bull. It's bull, and it's you can just easily see it.
Yep.
You muted yourself.
Let me let me just read these super chats. There's been quite a few of them, and then we're going to get to, of course, the projected Microsoft is being projected to be ahead of PlayStation revenue for the first time ever. I'm super excited for that, because what that means is potential additional acquisitions, them kind of tightening the ship with some of the studios they're currently working with. Maybe we do get the Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal acquisitions. Maybe IO, certain affinities, another one. Asobo's a possibility. There's quite a few of the studios that they're working with right now. I'd love to see bring in house. And when you see they're going to be making more money than PlayStation, when you consider them now owning Activision, there are some people in the community that are poo-pooing this, that are saying that, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to read you what Tom Warren had to say, and I don't think he really meant it as like, like he has, him and Jez Cord know each other. So I don't think he was being mean, like some people suggested. I think he was being snarky, if you will. And obviously that's, the rivalry between, Windows Central and The Verge. But I'll read to that. I'll read you guys and gals that in a second. First of all, Adidas 20 drops the first super chat of the day of $5. He says, no doubt Xbox will take over in revenue. People forget Call of Duty is coming to the Switch too. Yes, it is. And that is freaking crazy.
I mean, because we saw like a month ago or whatever, that Xbox is already ahead in terms of profits. So
yeah,
you add Call of Duty on top of that. Like it's pretty much a given.
It's pretty crazy. Michelle Alexandria drops a very generous $2 stupid sticker. So thank you so much for that. Raiden Blade, who's been a channel member for 30 months. My goodness, brother, that is very kind of you. He says, loving the Microsoft Xbox new acquisitions. It cost them $0 now for Team AI. Welcome to the family. Jeff can SAD. And if you know what that means, like the kids say, if you know. We don't care what you think. Go swim with the seahorses, according to Raiden Blade. We also have JFX88. Not only did he drop a super chat, folks, he has donated 5 double barrel gaming memberships. That is very, very generous of you. Thank you so much for the generosity. He says this after dropping a $5 super chat. I'm sure if there were leaked emails or communications between the judges, there would be a lot of agreements to bash Xbox and make sure it doesn't win. I mean, listen, it's hard to argue if that kind of behavior is happening between the lines or behind closed doors, if you will. Mark Man 05 drops an outstanding $10 super chat and says Hogwarts sold 15 million copies and Starfield sold 10 million copies, and that was being on Game Pass. I feel a lot of people push for Hogwarts being snubbed over Starfield. I think it's fair to say that both got snubbed, and I would agree with that. Gamer by Choice drops a $5 super chat and says politics has shown that putting out how people voted puts them at risk of torment and physical violence. I could see threats being made over gaming. It happens right now. I've had a threat or two in my YouTube career, which, I really wasn't worried because, it's, but I can see, like I said this before, folks. I don't like the idea of knowing who the judges are. I said that for safety reasons that cannot happen. And I'm talking. It's when I put on the popo hat. It just can't happen. But some transparency on how things are done and what entities, like how many votes did IGN get, how many votes did Metro get, and I know that like if you look at Jeff Gerstmann. How many did Jeff get? Well, he got one because it's Jeff Gerstmann. So obviously, he's been exposed, so to speak. But I don't think Jeff really.
But we don't know what he voted for.
Right. Not. Yeah.
Unless I guess he told us on one of his podcasts, which to my knowledge, I don't think they're allowed to do.
I don't think they know. I don't think they are. I think there's some NDA situations there. 5.0 Trey Gaming. Oh no! First of all, that was thinking. Okay, 5.0 Trey Gaming drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, boom, it's called selective politicking. Makers of Final Fantasy 16 made remarks about us black folks, and it was crickets and came with a nomination. Hashtag the bias is real. And I actually spoke about that. I that's why I don't support Square. Their representation and their very, very pointed opinions about people of color are just unacceptable to me. That's why I will not support Square Enix. So I didn't buy Final Fantasy 16. I didn't buy any of their stuff, and I will not until leadership change. Now they do have leadership change that happened during the last president that was there, but I don't know ultimately if that is an overall cultural thing at Square Enix. But they definitely need to clean up their act for sure.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the whole thing with Square, when it came to that, I pointed it out that it's foolish because it's ahistorical. Yeah, black people were there by that time. There was the Moors there, so they were wrong clearly. But
it's also just a really stupid hill to climb on when you're making a game about like giant magical beasts.
It absolutely is. It's
ridiculous. Have black people.
Yeah, nonsense.
Like
that's the same thing that happened with that other game. What was that medieval game? It was like made by Warhorse. No. It was made by Warhorse, and it was set in like
made by Warhorse.
Man, it was a really good game. But though they came out and they said, "Oh, we're trying to keep it real," that there was no people of color back then.
Kingdom Come,
that time.
Kingdom
Come, Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Deliverance.
Okay.
Yep, they said the same crap.
Well, that's dumb. That's dumb. People of color have existed forever, for centuries. The fact that some people want to say they don't is that's a real dangerous hill that you're climbing.
It's pretty silly. Like Daddy said, like you got giants and chocobos and all that running around. It's like that's where you draw the line at. But
also, like according to modern science, life started in Africa.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I would say too, though, that price tag of 70, that's also what stopped me. It's like I'm not paying 70 for that. Yeah, but when it goes on sale for a nice price, maybe I will invest.
Well, the next super chat comes the way of Ryu Art. Drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, like C Money said, call them out on their BS VGAs. Reggie
Facts.
Mobile 9, a generous friend of the program, drops a $5 super chat and says, "Great show, Boom and the crew. Loved Baldur's Gate 3, and the only game I put it down was for Starfield. I hate that Baldur's Gate 3 was used as ammo against Starfield. Yeah, I don't like it either. I think both games deserve a place to be spoken about equally. Now if you like one more than the other, I'm not going to fight with you, folks. You like what you like. But I think there is a world that can exist that these two games could stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and we both can talk about them in a positive manner. That's just my personal opinion. And last and no way least, Torino Johnson drops a very generous $2 super chat and says Starfield won Game of the Year at the Golden Joystick Awards. Yes, it did. And that's another pretty good awards. But look.
Well, they also, I mean, if we're keeping it exactly the same, they also didn't nominate Hogwarts for anything at the Golden Joystick.
They did not. So, yeah, I mean, listen, again, this is a conversation that we're going to come back to at some point because I think it's worthy of a conversation. But I do want to, guys, I want to talk about the Windows Central story that comes the way of our very good friend. Why did I get this? Hold on a second. Why did I lose the page? Okay, here we go. Jez Corden published this 2 days ago, and he said this, folks: Xbox is on track to knock Sony PlayStation down to third place for the first time in history. With combined Activision and Xbox revenues, Sony PlayStation may be looking at third place software and services spot behind Microsoft for the first time. And in the what you need to know section of the article, these are some of the finite points. And I kind of want to bring them up because they are a part of the conversation. He goes on to say, Microsoft and Sony have long been intense rival in the high-end console gaming market, with Sony typically out in the forefront by almost every metric. Despite Xbox's console market share woes, Microsoft has found a ton of success by expanding across the PC and doubling down on its services. Now that Microsoft has acquired Activision Blizzard, the makers of Call of Duty, Microsoft may be on course to leapfrog Sony's gaming revenues for the first time in history. And finally, Tencent remains the top dog by a mile, owing to investment in companies like Epic Games, domination in China, mobile titles, and ownership of League of Legends and the company Riot Games. So, Umbra, I want to go to you first on this because, we did see some people actually kind of, downplay this. Now, one of the points are, okay, okay, excellent. Let me just find it, what I sent you guys. Hold on just a second here. Okay. Now, okay, so when Jez Corden tweeted his article, he has a graph up. And obviously, we just read the article. Now, Tom Warren of The Verge, who I like Tom a lot, and I think a lot of people do. He's been on point when it comes to reporting, especially during the ABK situation. That dude was like a laser focused. And he put out a tweet. And again, I don't take it as you should be offended. You absolutely shouldn't. I think he was being a bit facetious, if you will, kind of poking fun at Jez Corden's story. But again, that's just a rivalry. Obviously, Jez Corden works for Windows Central. He works for The Verge. I take nothing for it. You shouldn't either.
Posted a picture together, hanging out. They met up, hung out.
Yeah, so plenty of times.
They're being funny.
He says, so when Jez Corden puts out the tweet, which for the first time in history, Xbox is on track to leapfrog Sony PlayStation in revenue. And of course, he puts a link to his story, which you should go and you should read because it was phenomenal. Tom Warren writes, and I took a big chuckle for this. He says, and it only took $69 billion to get there. So of course,
small price to pay.
It's a small price to pay, but see, ultimately,
tears.
We shouldn't care. You shouldn't care. What it ultimately means is this purchase solidified your gaming subscription and increased the value times 100. Okay. Now, again, not everybody plays Call of Duty. Most people don't even care about it. Most people play for this for the multiplayer. I'm the opposite. I'm like the 10% that people actually play Call of Duty for the single player campaign. I've enjoyed all of them, or at least most of them. And I even enjoyed Ghost. Now, Ghost is not a 10 out of 10. It was,
here,
you know,
bro.
7.5 out of 10, maybe an 8 to give you. I like the dog, you know, the dog missions and stuff. I liked it. I didn't hate it like some people did. I didn't play Vanguard, which when it drops into Game Pass, I will finally play it. But Umbra, I understand that for us as podcasters, or let's say you're looking at this from a consumer's point of view, this may not mean anything to you, right? But it ultimately, it will if you are someone that subscribes to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, because your value proposition of your monthly service is going to go through the roof. The more money that they make, the more investment they're going to make into Xbox. And when they make this investment into Xbox, they're ultimately making an investment into Xbox Game Pass. And what does that mean for us, Umbra? That means that, yes, we know that all of their first party stuff is going to be there, but we also know that the bigger that this thing gets, more people are going to want to put their wares into it. And when they make money on the back end, like they're going to make money and they're going to leapfrog past Sony, they're going to be able to invest those dollars into bringing more third party, second party, and indies to a service that you pay monthly. Let's break this down, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the bigger thing, though, that for us as Xbox is that we can tout this over our Sony Hooved brothers.
So ultimately, it just reverts. No matter how good
There
it does,
we
it just
go,
reverts to
Umbra.
console war.
That's what I like to hear.
Oh my goodness!
I
it took a long
known,
time
baby.
getting us right to the door, and you're like, it's console war.
Because that's exactly what it's going to get used for.
Hey, you got to unveil that shit right there. You know what I'm saying? You can't let it hide behind the curtain. You just rip that right off, baby.
I just have to be real about it, because we already know what's about to happen. As soon as they take over, we'll be like, yep, it's that time. Then we're going to start, doom and gloom.
That was a nice spiel that I did. It's all ruined.
Oh yeah, but
okay.
it is crazy.
That's okay. It's worth it.
It is.
That's funny.
Absolutely.
I love it.
But like we see that it would have jumped from what I think the revenue of 9 billion to 10.4 billion. So that's crazy, man. And I mean, Sony had brought in what 8 billion themselves. So it's something that's inevitable. It's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Activision alone themselves were bringing in about 8. So that combined with Microsoft, what they were bringing in, it's absolutely about to likely push them over. Now, to be fair, too, we might have some Hoove brothers that might try to. I'm not going to buy my Modern Warfare again, so to make sure that they don't, big up Xbox in the same process. I wouldn't put it past them, but I think it's a beautiful thing to see the landscape change like this. And I am, to your point, I am happy to know that with such an investment they put into it, all of that revenue coming in right there likely does mean more first party games for us, more deals being made for Game Pass, more sales, more whatever, better infrastructure for Game Pass, all these things. Like, it's so much more to get from this deal. And that's why, like, I didn't personally care for Activision, because I'm not the biggest Call of Duty fan. However, I know what it provides for us. So that's why I was like, I get it, and you do get Blizzard and everything else. So it's a cash cow, and it's something that's going to, I think, definitely leapfrog Microsoft over them. I'm just excited to see it, because I want to see the narratives now, because the revenue is like one of the last bastions of hope our Hoove brothers held on to. So that's what I want to see.
They'll just hold on to console sales still, because I imagine PlayStation will still sell more actual boxes.
True. Well, we still sell the most 2 to 1, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
you're right. Good point.
And Xbox will be like, oh no, and like dabbing their tears with money.
Right. They'd be crying like Dave Chappelle wiping the tears. But boom. I think it's interesting, because again, it's been such a long time coming where Microsoft would jump ahead and possibly take over as.
That's why they got that Microsoft Edge. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, there you go.
See what you did there. I like that. I like it. That's being quippy.
Put a tomato in the chat for Danny right there, because that was a dad joke. But it's funny too, looking at like Tencent. It's like, sheesh, Tencent is like miles ahead what they bring in. But regardless, like I said, to me it's interesting, because I know already what we're about to see once this happens in front of the community. That's the funniest part to me. So I'm looking forward to that alone. But as far as what it does for us as gamers, absolutely, I'm excited because I know that it likely bodes well for us getting more IP, more games brought to deals made, whatever, to bring games to Game Pass, things of that nature. So I'm excited, and more acquisitions too, to be fair, because we're going to get that too. So it's a win-win for me all around, personally.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, look, when Xbox does better or gets money, none of us getting paid, right? We're not. You can call us corporate shows all you want. The fact of the matter is that we, as fans, like I like to look at the broader picture, and I really do put myself on the spotlight here. Like I say this, and I'm very transparent about who I was before I became a content creator. Everyone knows that I'm a retired police officer. Right? It's what I did, and I'm on a pension, and my pension is great. And I use this analogy all the time because it's factual. What Game Pass does for me is it allows me to be a part of the conversation in gaming as a whole. I don't have to buy the Xbox first party games, and with that extra money, I can go and buy the digital deluxe edition of Spider-Man, or I can go and buy Mario Wonder and Tears of the Kingdom and Mario RPG, because I don't have to spend the money on Xbox, because that comes as part of my service. So when you see a situation like this, Daniel, right, this is great news for Xbox gamers. Now, of course, like Umbra said, people are going to use this as their rah-rah charge for the console wars. I don't get in the middle of the console wars. Like what you like. I like Xbox better than PlayStation, but I still own a PS5. I still went out and bought the Spider-Man covers and the Spider-Man controller because I'm a stan. I like Spider-Man. I'm a Marvel stan. I have no apologies, and I'm quite enjoying Insomniac's third iteration of Spider-Man 2. I'm quite enjoying it, and I make no apologies for that. But it's still my least played console. The Switch comes in at number 2 because I play the Switch with Mrs. Boom every day of the week. 7 days a week, I'm playing that thing. Even if whether it's for a half an hour or 3 hours, I'm playing Animal Crossing. I'm a big old nerd. I don't care. But this is
Boom, how many hours you got in Animal Crossing, bro?
Mrs. Boom and I have probably over 1,000 each easily in that game. Easily.
I think that's still one of my most played games. Like I think I
played
have like
every day. It's like work. It's literally like work. But you know what?
It is. That's the stupid game. That's what it is. It is so
it is
like
work.
It's like addicting. It's like you get off of work to
is
go
Animal
work.
Crossing the reason you haven't finished so many of the other games that came out this year, bro?
Probably, yeah. It's probably because of Animal Crossing. Because again, Mrs. Boom is like, we're gonna play Diablo eventually. Like that's those kind of games are her thing. We just haven't gotten to Diablo because she's started a new job and it's just a lot of work for her. So we haven't had time. But the Animal Crossing is, we play for an hour, we play for 2 hours, and that's her zen. You know what I'm saying? That's her escape. And we enjoy, even though she said it the other day, she goes, my God, I got to go here. Then it's like work. It's like, I'm back at work because it's funny. And we still play it. It's great. But my point is that, Daniel, this money situation where you see that for the first time in literally history for Xbox, it's going to have more money. There are some people in the industry, and no names here. We don't have to name names. So have your opinion. Feel that, this is a cheap shot. This is a cheap way of Microsoft or Xbox winning because they bought their way into it. But that's business. That's what business is all about. And something like I said, I think ultimately we are going to get more value for our service. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
So I think it's really funny to make this distinction now because you already have to separate PlayStation and Xbox from their parent entities for this to even be a story, because Microsoft obviously makes significant, like probably 3 or 4 times as much every year as Sony does. Mm-hmm. So in terms of like, Xbox is going to have more money than PlayStation now, it's like, no, they always did. That was always true. Like they just whipped 69 billion out of nowhere, right? Like that's not something PlayStation can or likely will ever be able to do. So I don't know how much it's actually going to change on that front. I do think that it is good for us to a certain extent, in that I think that them having sort of a higher margin of profit is what we're looking for here, right? Because those numbers that we saw, what was it, earlier this year, I guess, where it was like which three, like from the big three, it was like their amount of revenue versus their amount of profit. Where Xbox was at, like, I think Xbox and PlayStation were pretty close, but Xbox was a little bit ahead, and then PlayStation was like significantly ahead, even though I think they had the lowest revenue. So it was, when we see that percentage go up, what that's going to mean is that it's just another way in which Xbox is going to have more freedom to sort of do more things, right? They already get a lot of sort of free reign out of the Game Pass of it all, where it's like, if we put out a Hi-Fi Rush and it doesn't sell 6 million units, it's fine as long as people stay subscribed to Game Pass and play it in there, right? Like, they don't necessarily need to do the PlayStation thing of like every single game we put out has to be a 10 out of 10 banger, because if it doesn't make that money back, then we don't make any money, and then we're in trouble, right? Like, that's sort of why PlayStation is moving on to this live service model, is because if, let's say, 2, maybe 3 of those games bombed back to back, they'd be in a really serious situation. And Game Pass helps them not have to worry about something like that. Getting this new influx of money from Call of Duty, which, even though they put a shed load of money into it every year to make it, they make that money back hand over fist, especially from the mobile side of things. And so it's going to be really good for them to just be able to sort of take a step back and be like, we have to maintain a certain amount of this profitability, but now that we have this cushion, this like level of safety, this like parachute, there's going to be some aspects of this that we can see, like, are there other things we can do here? Are there some of these Activision teams that we can spin off and allow to do other things? And weirdly, the fact that Modern Warfare 3 reviewed so poorly is probably going to help speed that up, where they're going to be like, we can't rely exclusively on Modern Warfare, like on Call of Duty, right? Some of these teams we should probably spin off and start figuring out what the next Call of Duty is, because Call of Duty is not going to last forever, right? It's not going to be a thing that people play until the year 3000, right? So
maybe.
I'm pretty confident in that. I don't even know.
Let me know in the year 3000, all right, man?
I mean, don't you worry. I'll be a robot brain floating around in a jar, but I'll let you know.
I love it.
I think that because you talk about them doing more acquisitions with this money, and I think that's certainly a high possibility, an entire probability. Said multiple times, like, they're not done. We're not done acquiring.
Well, I mean, Satya Nadella said that they're doubling down on investments into Xbox. I mean, that's a fact.
Yeah. And he did say that in terms of both first party and third party deals. And so I do think that that's probably where the majority of this is going to go. I think that they're.
I think he froze. He said he was having some internet issues. There he goes.
There we go. But yeah, sorry. We're at a point now where I've lost my train of thought a little bit. What was I just saying? What was the last thing you heard?
Well, that's the thing. You froze, so we didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, but what was the last thing you heard before I froze?
I was typing, so I'm trying to. So I didn't. I might have
someone wasn't listening to me.
Yeah, I'm listening, but I'm also typing. I'm trying to welcome everybody here.
So with the acquisitions talk of it all, right? They are going to continue to make acquisitions, but I think they're at a point now where every time they make another big acquisition, they're going to catch a lot more flack for it because of how public the Activision Blizzard one was. And so I think that probably the next acquisitions we see are not a huge publisher. I think it's more likely that we see them, sort of come in as the white knight in a couple of situations. Like, I do think that ones that make sense here are like the Crystal Dynamics and the Eidos Montreal, right? Like buying things away from Embracer before they completely go belly up, right? I think that makes sense. I could also see, and this is also partially just me being selfish, I could also see them going for those WB studios. They just had that big thing where they're like, we're going in live services, and everyone was like, no. And I know that there's always been the conversation of like, oh, but they won't buy them if they don't get the IP. And it's like, well, there's 100 different ways that they could get the IP. So they'll probably just do that. Either they could make a long-term partnership with WB where, they could buy the whole thing. They could make a long-term partnership where they are like, hey, if you want to make DC games, then we're the guys who are going to do it. Like they can just put that in the contract of like first rights of refusal type deal. They could buy just the video game rights. Like there's 100 different ways the business can make that make sense for them.
Real quick, did any of you guys watch the Suicide Squad new trailer? The new
I
trailer
like
that they've been
it.
putting
Didn't
out?
look.
You know what? I'm going to be honest
me.
with you. I'm excited for the game. I'm not going to lie.
Man, it is not. It makes me so sad that that's what they had to do.
No,
That they
it's
had to jump into this games as a service type deal. Like you look at that and then compare it to like
when
Batman,
it was first announced,
Arkham.
I think it was already.
Yeah. You look
you
at
look at Arkham and the games they made, and then you see this thing. These guys are jumping. I've never seen superheroes or villains jump around so much in my life.
Yeah, I shouldn't be seeing King Shark flying around like that. That's weird.
Yeah, it's such a dumbass
you know,
idea.
it's funny. It had an element to the
though,
jumping around like Hi-Fi Rush almost.
A little bit.
You know.
Well, like Sunset Overdrive, you mean?
Yeah, Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah, it's very much Sunset Overdrive. That's great. Yeah.
The good news is, because we reported on this on the fix, is that there was the rumor that Wonder Woman was going live service.
Thank God it's not. No,
and
it's going single
they
player.
clarified that, which may have been partially because they saw the clap back to it and they were like, oh, maybe we don't. So that's good. But yeah, I think there are acquisitions that they could make where people will be like, okay, that one's fine. But I think if when 2024 hits, they're like, we're buying Sega, we're buying Capcom. I think they're going to get a lot more flack than they deserve for it. And so I think that it'll probably be a while before we see another really big acquisition like that. And I know people disagree with me on that. But the other thing is, like, they're also at a point where I don't think they necessarily need to buy something to make it exclusive. I think that there's probably going to be a lot of partnerships with Sega, whether they buy them or not. We've already seen them do Game Pass deals with Capcom once or twice. So, like, I think now that they are becoming more of a powerhouse, it's going to allow them to throw that weight around to make sure, A, that games don't miss their platform, and B, that if there is a game that they want to come in, make exclusive, that they actually can not have to pay like 3 times as much as what PlayStation would have to pay for it. So I think that's really my biggest takeaway from this is not so much like, oh, they're going to add a ton more stuff to Game Pass for me, which, like, that'd be cool. I'm all for that. But more, it's going to make their ability to do business that much easier, because they can be like, we're the Call of Duty guys, right?
Yeah.
You can't ignore us anymore. You can't just not put your game on our platform. And I think that's going to be really beneficial for everybody.
No, I absolutely agree. First of all, let me just do a catch up on one of the super chats that popped in here. We have a channel member message from our good brother Drawn TJ, who's been a channel member for 3 months, and he says this: hi everyone, Xbox should buy Take-Two to stick it to the ponies. When they start up the GTA, it says made by Xbox in capital letters. LOL, no PlayStation 6.
It wouldn't be a show without having
TJ
come through.
I mean, greedy Umbra, greedy TJ. It's just like, we appreciate you both. Jacob Novick drops not one but 2 $5 super chats. And the first one, he says, hi, I've gotten N-words just for answering on Twitter to a disagreement and death threats over small arguments. Peace doesn't exist in these people. Social media is gross and it's disgusting. Yeah. And like I said, anyone that says anything that's derogatory like that, you report them immediately. You block them. You let other people know to block them. Because when I see that, I immediately report and block. I'm sorry. I'm not going to stand for that rhetoric. Even if I don't know the person, even if they're not talking to me, if I see it, I don't like it. My brother's African American, and my wife's Hispanic. So I have and me personally, I'm like a shake and bake bag. So when I see that kind of stuff, my inner I'm not going to stand for this kind of rhetoric jumps out of me. So yeah, I'm sorry that happened, dude. That's gross, and it's probably over something petty like, oh, I like Xbox over PlayStation, and that's why social media sucks, dude. His second super chat says Xbox won't stop after PlayStation is down to 3rd place. They will continue to buy and make games, etc. Once enemies, always enemies. That's the truth. And you know something? We got a story that we're going to do on the back end after we hear from C Money that I watched a video from Matty Plays, and I love Matty. Matty's a great dude. I met him in person last year. I consider to be I consider like a Cognito to be like my actual brother. And he works, obviously they work together on Defining Duke. And Matty did a video regarding Knights of the Old Republic and how Xbox could literally get involved and pull the rug out from Sony, who wants no part of it. That's our next story. But C Money, let's get your hot take on what this ultimately means. And again, I know you're gonna get a little messy. I know that's C Money. It's what we love them, right? This is what we love them for. So I mean, obviously,
why I gotta be messy?
No, it's just it's, you know exactly what I'm saying. It's look,
man.
For the rhetoric of PlayStation versus Xbox. Now we're going to come to a point where moving forward every year, Xbox, not Microsoft, Xbox is going to be making more money than PlayStation. And that's exciting for a lot of people. I think ultimately from a consumer's point of view, I really think that it is something to be had, that as a consumer, we who subscribe to Xbox Game Pass just had our services expanded upon value-wise tenfold with the acquisition of King, Blizzard, and Activision. And it's not going to stop there. Let's get your hot take on this report from Jez Corden of Windows Central.
Well, first of all, for gamers in general, okay, we know that a humbled PlayStation is a good PlayStation. That's where we get all of our good stuff from, when they get brought down to their knees, right? And the 360 era, they got humbled. They ultimately came back after Xbox moved on, but they got humbled. Then they got thrown that lifesaver by Microsoft with the way that they marketed the Xbox One generation. And then boom, PlayStation came back and they were able to take advantage of that, right? But we as a group should want to see Sony humbled, brought down. They need to get down to third place, which they're gonna be. I mean, they're essentially
I like
there,
the
but
humbled
yeah,
angle that
that's
you're pulling.
facts.
I like it a lot. I think there's a lot to discuss.
It's absolutely true. They need to be humbled, right? Cocky PlayStation, that's where we are now. That's why they don't even care. They're just giving us nothing but sequels and remasters because they're just cashing in on the buck, and they know that the PlayStation heads out there are going to suck it up, right? Like, it's just what they know, and they don't care. And they know that the Pony Defense Force is blinded by any type of reality, so they'll just keep thinking that this is the greatest thing ever, no matter what Sony gives them. So that is just something that we need to see happen, and the beauty of this all is that we absolutely will. First of all, let's just call it like it is. Microsoft could give 3 craps about what PlayStation fans think the position they're in. Microsoft is a $3 trillion company. They don't care, dude. They don't need Xbox to be looked at as anything other than a great place to provide games and have people join and be part of Game Pass. That's all they want. That's all they want. And they want you to do that whether you buy a console and do that, whether you go on a PC and do that, whether you, I'm assuming, go to a Switch and do that at some point, because we know that that's probably where it's going to lead to. But at the end of the day, Microsoft is well above all this nonsense. Like, the arguments that I see from PlayStation pony dudes that think that there's some type of hurting that Microsoft is going through right now is asinine. Like, it's crazy the thoughts that these guys have. Like, it really blows my mind. Like, I don't know who they talking to. Like, how can you be so oblivious to the reality of what's going on here? Yo, Microsoft literally spent in acquisitions essentially the entire value of Sony. Like, the entire value of Sony.
Yeah, when you consider
spent,
Bethesda, you consider the other
when
studios,
you
and you
consider everything
consider
that they've
ABK.
done.
It's about 100 billion by the time it's all said and
Yeah,
done.
yeah, that's what Sony's worth, right? They spent more than what's PlayStation's worth already, right? They, in acquisitions for sure. The PlayStation, just the entity, spent way more than that on the acquisition. And you know why that matters? Because as Xbox fans, we get to see that Microsoft and Xbox actually have a desire to keep us satiated, right? They want to keep us fed. They want to keep giving us more and more, not because they are some holy grail of people. No, it's because they know that if they keep feeding us, we stay subscribed. Now, when we stay subscribed, every time they give us something new, it's free because we're already paying for the service, right? So that's already done. So every time we hear new news about what's coming in, we just get a much better service. And at the end of the day, they're not stopping at first party. They're not saying we're going to buy all these things and then that's all you're going to get from us. No, they're still investing in third party day and dates. And what's starting to happen is you'll notice that we're not really seeing too much any rumbling going on the PlayStation side, right? Like we have stopped hearing about anything coming through the grapevines for them, right? Because there's nothing coming. They're having to redo all their plans have essentially been thrown out the window and have to get restarted because they pivoted to games as a service, started trying to get their single player studios to make games as a service. Now Jim Ryan kicked rocks, right? He's out. He saw he was on the Titanic. He was like, I'm taking the first boat off this bitch. All right, I'm out. So he's gone. He sees where everything's going. And now you got the mobile dude coming in, the COO of Sony coming in and basically saying, listen, this whole year, I'm just going to be seeing if we find somebody, but it's a year maximum. So it's like, if we ain't got nobody, you're screwed. Or by then, we're just going to pick the best one that we can think of at that moment, right? Like there is nothing about what's happening right now to Sony and PlayStation that would ever make me think that I should go stand on some hill and pull out my chest and start talking down to Xbox fans or about Xbox. That is mind-boggling that they think these ponies, they think that this is something that is even a discussion at this point. Like there is no discussion. Like there's nothing to talk about here. Xbox is going to continue to take. They're going to take because they can. And in this particular situation, as gangster as it is that if they want it, they'll buy it, they also know that the industry that we're in right now, the industry that we're all watching, that we're all crying about, oh man, look at the layoffs here, look at the layoffs here, look at the layoffs here. So those tears, right, that you guys are crying about all these people, okay, cool, it is sad, I get it. But when the next time you hear Xbox bought this company, how about instead of trying to bitch and moan about, oh, they're just buying their way into the industry, and how about you look at them for what they actually are? Right now, they are the saviors of this industry. They are
many studios wouldn't exist without them. Yeah, dude, seriously.
No, absolutely, but they're saving creativity. The industry is creatively bankrupt, right? We get nothing but the same sequel crap, the same type of nonsense regurgitated over and over again. Even when Sony was putting out their new games, right? When they first came out with Ghost of Tsushima, they first came out with Days Gone, they first came out, oh, look at these new IPs. Oh my God, PlayStation killing it. PlayStation took the same game, reskinned it, and put it out again. No creativity. Okay, no creativity. Meanwhile, nobody wants to say a word about the fact that Xbox has how many new IPs?
They have quite a
how many new IPs that have come out and that are coming out? And are these, I don't know, are these all cookie cutters of the same game? No, they're all different. They all have different lanes that they're in, but what the same thing they're going to have in common is the quality level. Because we all know that Redfall was the last time that Phil was going to go ahead and let any of their studios come out with trash. Nothing that's come out from their studios in the recent years have been garbage, right? Everything's been rated. Oh, boom, look at this. I love the.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying to type and I hit the wrong button and it always brings me up. Nobody wants to see this face. It's fine. I get
Listen, it. But we know that Xbox is doing this, but they don't get their flowers, right? The industry doesn't give them the flowers that they deserve for saving the creativity that's out there, because that's what it means to get bought by Xbox. Xbox buys you, they look at you and they say, hey, what do you want to make? What are you passionate about? That's the first thing we heard. Phil Spencer closed the deal. Is he sitting back smoking a cigar and drinking a scotch or some shit, just sitting with a big ass fireplace and just sitting back? No, he's like, yo, I'm getting on the plane and I'm meeting these teams ASAP, because I want them to know that they are now part of this family. And in this family, we got the cash to let you be who you want to be. We let you
know, on top of that,
what
one of the most valuable things that are happening with Xbox and their first party teams is, yes, they do have a lot of leeway when it comes to the financials on how much they're spending for the games, and that's fantastic. The ultimate thing is time. They're going to be allowed to have time to make a game without having to rush it to print because they need a game now on this quarter for their investments. They have so many games that are being made that if a game needs to be put back in the oven because it's not quite done, kind of like Starfield, it won't ultimately hurt them. And that's why when Phil came out during the interview and said, listen, we have lined up for the next 3 years 4 AAA blockbusters per year, 1 per quarter, and I'm very excited about being here. That's because he's obviously knows everything that's coming out, and that is not even what's happening in between the lines, like the second party stuff, the third party stuff that's going to Game Pass, the indie stuff that they have as exclusives. Folks, like I've said it before, now is the time to get into Xbox, and you can pick up an Xbox super cheap, and it's and you're going to get your value. But please continue.
Absolutely. No, I mean, but that's the fact, right? Time is everything, right? That's what we know that Sony doesn't have. We know Sony doesn't have time. That's why they took a developer like Insomniac, who was a huge beast, and they said, listen, we know you could pump out a game pretty quick. We need you to just figure out how to give us Spider-Man 2 ASAP, because we see with the bugs that thing was rushed, but also we see the scope. You're telling me that Insomniac, with the quality that they are, you tell them, hey, listen, I want you to make a next gen PlayStation 5 only Spider-Man. And we believe that this is the game that they were going to give us. If they had the time to make it what they actually wanted to make, if they had the time to not have to just take the PlayStation 4 map and bring it over and then just add to that, and then let's just keep the foundation the same and just try to pretty it up as much as we can. No, they wouldn't. They would have pushed boundaries. They would have done more, but they can't, because Sony can't afford it. And that, my friend, is why being on the side of the cash versus the side that is is putting everything on layaway, right? There's a difference. Okay, there's a difference, right? Because the quality of our games are going up, but aside from, you take away the bias, pony situation that happens in the reviewing and all that other stuff, you take a look at what we actually see in front of us, and we know that the quality levels are either going down or the scope is going down. The same problem with Spider-Man 2 is the same problem with Ragnarok. People out here acting as if God of War Ragnarok was this amazing game. It really wasn't. It really wasn't. It was bloated, filled with a bunch of crap that nobody wanted to do. And again, a half step. This is your PlayStation 5, show me something dope game, and it's just more of the same look. Nobody's pushing boundaries over there.
Well, I mean, that's sad. You're right. They're not pushing boundaries anymore. As a matter of fact, let me just do a quick shout out because we had almost 700 people here today. I want to shout out Hazador Gaming in the chat. What's going on, brother? A long time, no time. Hopefully you're doing well. He said, man, he put a really good point. Let me see if I can find it. It's a really good message. He says, as someone who has a bigger PlayStation background, it's still wild to me. Sony doesn't do anything like Hi-Fi Rush anymore. Games like Jak and Daxter. And that's because that's a great question. That's when Sony was weird. That's when we got the Twisted Metals. That's when we got games like Resistance Fall of Man from Insomniac, right? Amazing. They don't have those things anymore. What happened is they got lazy. And again, some of their games are phenomenal, and yes, they're very samey in their presentation. Like Days Gone is a much different game than Ghost of Tsushima, but both games are amazing. They just have a very similar look to them. I think what happened with Sony is they were in the lead so long and in first place for so long that they just got lazy, and this is where they are. They're in a pickle. And maybe like C Money was saying, a humbling situation may actually be good for the company. Maybe they realize that they have to get weird again, and maybe we start to see those Hi-Fi Rush type of titles. We'll see what happens. But what I want to do is we do have a couple of super chats that I want to get to real quick, and then we will. I mean, again, we're close to the end of the show, but we still have about 15 minutes, give or take. I want to attack this Star Wars situation with Knights of the Old Republic, because I think Xbox has a real opportunity to do something special. Obsidian obviously didn't make the original. That was BioWare. They made the sequel, which was phenomenal. Maybe because Sony has pulled funding on this deal that they're going to work with Embracer, and we know how close Embracer is to Xbox. Maybe this is an opportunity, because remember, I didn't know this until it came out, but Microsoft passed on Knights of the Old Republic because of who was making it. And they were like, yeah, no. Well, now maybe one of their first-party studios could get involved. And we're going to talk about it in a hot second. Highlander 001 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, my dividend check has gone up 45% from last year, so I'm glad. So I'm good with Microsoft acquisitions. They've made me money. Great shows, as always. That's excellent, brother. And Hitman Official, generous friend of the program, drops a $2 super chat and says, I know Embracer Group wants some Microsoft money, and that money is either already been spent or on the way, because, like I said, I don't see Microsoft not acquiring IP. I hope it's Tomb Raider for Lara Croft's sake, honestly. And I also hope that Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, come home to Xbox, because that is going to be two really powerful studios that know how to make third-person action adventure games, and to have them, in your under the banner of Xbox Game Studios would be freaking huge. But let's move on, gentlemen, to, of course, one of the big topics of the day, and that is Knights of the Old Republic. We have some information that comes the way of. Let me just pull it up here. Just give me a second. Usually I have this stuff queued. Apologize for. Okay, so Daily Star Wars Games, or daily_SW Games on Twitter, posted this clarification from Jeff Grubb regarding what actually happened with Knights of the Old Republic and the Embracer Group, and the fact that Sony has pulled complete funding of this. This game is DOA. It's dead. This is what Jeff Grubb had to say. Sony is wanting to be done with it. My stuff comes from PlayStation. It feels like it cannot happen without a partner like Sony. Sony seems to be out. With the funding pulled, to me, it's definitely done. No reason for anyone to be working on it. And he goes on to say, the reality is maybe someone somewhere is imagining it could happen, and someone could be working on it. I don't know that far. I don't know what's happening inside Embracer. They would have to find someone to make that happen with. I know Lucas is very horny to make this happen for years. So I think if Embracer can find someone to make it still happen, they will. So I'm going to go to Infinite Umber on this. See, this is the question of the day. Okay, they had an opportunity. They did not like what was happening and who was making it. So Xbox said no. This was originally an Xbox exclusive. It's looked upon as an OG Xbox staple. in what made Xbox what it is. This is a pretty crazy opportunity considering how many studios that they now currently have. And we know that Obsidian, and I know that somebody in the chat was like, how come Xbox doesn't have their own Insomniac games? I would push back on that and say that if there is one, you can look at it, the workhorse being Obsidian. Obsidian is doing a lot of things for Xbox right now. They're doing Avowed. They're doing a sequel to their the other space game, The Outer Worlds. They're potentially working on something else that may be in the pipeline. Do you give them an opportunity, Umbra, to work on Knights of the Old Republic, because we know that they're familiar with it because they made the second one, which was as revered as Knights of the Old Republic 1. What are your thoughts on this, man?
No, I think you hit it on the head. If in fact Obsidian is down for it, then yeah, I think you would go for them. And if you're Microsoft, to get, by the way, that part where it says Lucas is very horny to make it happen for years. I'm like, what?
He said that. I didn't make that up.
You say happy or horny?
No, he literally. I watched the video. He literally said horny. That's what he said. I mean,
you horny, baby. Do I? I just thought that was funny. But
that's what he said.
I just thought that was so odd. I'm like, horny. Lucas is horny for this.
It does paint a picture.
They turned on. Please do it. Yeah. Start rubbing
that's great.
Their chest in their chest hairs. Danny. But
so anyway.
No, so my thing is, I think it's kind of poetic karma in a sense that the game that was slapped in our face, really, because I remember that when it happened, and all of us were like, what a slap to the face for them to get that game. And that has long been associated with the Xbox One, at least the OG, and to have it be exclusive to PlayStation. And what a slap to the face. And we were all kind of like, Phil, why didn't you, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then we learned
I called it egregious. I and I don't take it back, but we found out why.
We found out why.
It was doomed.
Yeah, exactly. And having Aspire on it and unknown, like at least unproven, at least when it comes to something of this nature, studio here. And now we see why. Had a lot of issues behind the scenes. And with Sony backing out of it now, I mean, Sony can't afford to deal with that like that anyway. I mean, they're fumbling right now with some of their own first party titles.
Indeed.
So it was just I think a thing in karma, but also a thing in maybe it was projected to fail all along. And maybe Sony didn't really want this thing right here. I feel like sometimes Sony puts out games to try to grab interest, like, oh, look at what we have coming, like Phantom Blade. Phantom Blade is a prime example. That's not even a game. What we saw during that with the guy doing all that magnificent jumping around and acrobatic sword play, that wasn't real.
We're talking about Stellar Yams.
Oh no, Stellar Yams is real, but is Sony producing that now? So it's sufficient. Right?
I don't know. I think it's one of those ones where like they're publishing it, and so they're calling it first party, even though it's second party.
I see. Yeah,
it's one of those situations.
I got you. Yeah, so that one right there was third party, but now Sony is funding it, publishing it, like you say. So, but yeah,
double check.
I think that's what it is because I've seen people say it before that they were publishing it. So I think you're right. But yeah, that thing is, it's like, I think it's poetic in a sense, but also I think it opens the door. To me, it's a good thing because none of us were inspired with Aspire being on it. All of us were kind of like, who? So to me, but it does lead to some thoughts, though. It leads me to wonder, like, why did Disney agree to have them do it?
Exactly. It's a beloved IP.
Big time.
So I actually kind of have an answer to that one, is because so previous the time where like Disney Plus was first launching, Disney was just kind of like throwing their IP out to wherever to get it made into as many things as possible, because they were like, we need to make all the money right now. It wasn't until recently, like the last 6-ish months, where they started being like, actually, maybe we should focus more on quality. And so I think this remake would have been probably greenlit around the same time as like all of these other just ludicrous games, like maybe the that Avengers game that came out and then went nowhere. And like Disney really has been throwing their IP around a lot lately. With significantly more misses than hits.
Yeah, they have, but I just feel like you would feel like they kind of safeguard Star Wars, right? So it just seems kind of
you would think.
You would hope so.
They go with a kind of relative unknown. I feel like it's a little odd, but I
actually don't know what Aspire had done previously.
Me either. I think there was like some mobile stuff. I don't think they've done anything major.
I think they did like I think they did the old Star Wars remasters, like the old games that they basically just brought forward.
It looks like they mostly did ports.
Yeah, ports.
Okay,
Yep.
Yeah, it is ports of them. But so I think though, as the old saying is, one man's misfortune is another's, fortune here in this case, right? So them coming up.
You say trash.
Oh, they're the ones who were doing the KOTOR ports to Switch, where they promised that they would bring in all the DLC and like removed content, and then they didn't do that, and they're getting sued for it. I think.
Yep.
Oh wow. But yeah, so I think though with that happening, it leaves the door open for a more qualified team to step in. In comes, Obsidian. I know that Josh Sawyer and they spoke on it before. They would love to do something like that. So I can see them doing it if they're open to it, and they don't have anything. I mean, it probably will be. I mean, if this game was destined to be like 2025, 26. That what I would imagine would be 27, 28 if they did jump on it. But
yeah, we have to imagine, especially if it's changing studios, that they're basically just restarting that timeline.
Exactly. So I'm all for it under the understanding that it wouldn't come out anytime soon. But I'm all for that. Take your time. Take your time to give us what we need. And it's like you all were saying a minute ago on the previous topic that now we have such a window of opportunity when it comes to Xbox that none of these games need to be rushed out. They can take the time with all of these and get them to us properly when they're ready to be put out there. Same thing like when Ninja Theory was basically telling Matt Booty, no, we're not ready to show anything. So come back later. And he's like, okay, master. But that's the thing. Like we know now they have that leeway to not put anything out there that's not ready to be shown. So Obsidian, absolutely. In Exile, absolutely. I think they have. So the good thing about Xbox right now is they're so diverse with some of the greatest Western RPG makers here. They can go in so many directions with who they want to make it. Hell, they can have in Exile and Obsidian work together if they needed to. I saw somebody in the chat mention, well, why don't you get the old BioWare team? Well, good luck with that. I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
I mean, they
don't exist anymore, bro.
Well, no, they do. They're just not BioWare anymore. So Casey Hudson went and he started his own team called Humanoid or something, and then the other guy whose name I can't remember also started a new team. So the BioWare team still exists. They're just like
all over the place.
Gone.
Yeah,
they're not
elsewhere anymore. Exactly.
How many people joined him, dude? Like, is that team a humanoid? Like,
I remember at the time it was like a pretty solid number, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I imagine him being like Jerry Maguire. Who's going with me? And they all started getting their little fish bowls and leaving. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I hear that. I mean, we would all love the old BioWare back, right? But yeah, that team is gone. That team is spread out to
the Xbox and the
I will
360 days.
Microsoft is not looking at Casey Hudson's new studio and being like, "Y'all need some money? Y'all need a publisher?
Dollar bills over this way, baby. What you need?"
Really missing out because that dude's quality.
Yeah, so that's
my thing. The last time he was on, he basically worked on AR. Didn't even work on a game, which is
stupid.
I
don't know why you
thing what we were talking about a minute ago, even like with the whole Activision thing and them getting so much revenue from that, is Microsoft has money to burn, as they would say, and so they can better fund this than Sony ever could, and they can give these devs the time they need to give us the best product available. You know what I mean? So I'm fully behind Obsidian doing it. Absolutely. Why not? Like you said, they worked on the second game. They have the pedigree. They know what they're doing. One of the top Western RPG makers in the game. 100% behind that. But again, Microsoft has a lot of ways they can go with this. And so if I was Phil and team, I would be looking to bring that back because it just feels right to kind of, again, it feels like karma to me. Kind of like, you thought you had them, huh? And now, all these things are starting to go Microsoft.
It would be a really good story if it was, because it was a big story that Xbox passed on. And it was an even bigger story that during one of PlayStation shows, they had the reveal that that Knights of the Republic is going to be exclusive to the brand. Mm-hmm. And now we have learned that that's not, in fact, the case. I think it would be a really, really big turnaround and a story worth covering if it was announced that now Sony has backed out of it. Oh, we lost Danny. And we are now on the cusp of Microsoft taking over of publishing rights. What are your thoughts on this, C Money? Again, it would be a great story. Now, maybe the media wouldn't report on it with such enthusiasm as we would. Let's just say that, but it still would be pretty cool if, in fact, this game that was going to be a PlayStation exclusive is no longer, and it's an Xbox exclusive.
So I agree that would make a big splash. Um, it would have the only way it would matter to me is if somebody's out there who's sitting there itching to make it. And the problem is it's a remake, right? It's not like the next one, right? So like I think that's might be a harder pill to swallow to say, hey, Obsidian, go make this remake when you're out here making all these new IP bangers that you guys got going on. Um, but I do think it would be like a marketing beat would be huge. It'd be like, "Oh, snap, look, we got it now." I think that maybe Microsoft might look at it and want to take it further, than just doing a remake. Now that the Knights of the Old Republic, the license is there, let's have Obsidian make a new one, right?
I
Let's
mean, it's
have them,
possible. Sure, why not?
you know,
Yeah.
have them do a number 3, make that their next big game. We always thinking, Obsidian might do the next Fallout or something, but take that IP, give us the next Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, that I think would be huge. But when that got announced, like it was dope until I saw who it was. You see somebody like Aspire, and it's not like, oh my God, this is, I'm so pumped for this. Like, this is one of those scenarios, like, you don't announce that and say it's Aspire unless you have gameplay, that's far, like it's far in development. Like,
Yep.
look, it's Aspire, but look at what they've done so far. And it's like, oh wow, that looks amazing. But you tell me Aspire and you give me a splash screen, it's like nah, man, like I'm not down for that. So I mean, if this was the case, I feel like Microsoft might feel the same way. I feel like Phil would feel the same way. So if this were to happen, I don't think it would be something we would know about until until like we're much closer and there's a game actually playable, or at least much close to that. Um, but yeah, man, at the end of the day, Xbox having any of these licenses that we know and love under their control to make a game for is what we want, because we
There is.
already know the situation. We know that if they have control of an IP, that they're going to put the number one, the money behind
Mm-hmm.
it. They're going to put the resources behind it. They're going to put the talent behind it, and they're going to put the time. And that is it. That's what we want, right? We know that Sony can't listen. Sony can't afford to take these risks. That's why they're doing it, right? They're looking at that game and they see where it's going and they're like, this is not going to sell. This is not going to pop. This is not going to do well for us. The only thing that Sony has right now, still for the most part, because it there hasn't been enough time to damage it because they barely come out with games, but is their image of their quality, right? So aside from Spider-Man that's super buggy, that's something that we are circulating, but we're a small portion of the world. We already know that the media barely even mentions a bug in Spider-Man, right? And there's nobody, none of these big companies are out here talking about it in a major way. So that doesn't spread, right? So because it doesn't spread, they're still given that kind of safe space where they're looked at as this higher tier. But if they start releasing games that are of that lower tier, well, you have a problem because then you have nothing left. And that's why they thought that it would make sense to spend 3 bills on almost 4 on Bungie to have them come take a look at what they were making, because they're looking at what they're making is like, we don't know how this is coming out. Let's have these other guys who know what they're doing come in here, suppose, quote unquote know what they're doing, come in here and take a look. And look, they shut down games that were in development. They are postponing games big time that were in development. Like, you're talking about, 2025 before we're going to see the first of their first party games as a service. Like, that's a long time. And that's only possibly half of them. We know that the other half is scheduled for 2026. Like, the only roadmap we have as people who own PlayStations is one remaster that we know of, potentially two more that is being rumored with a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster for PlayStation 5 and possibly a Ghost of Tsushima remaster for PlayStation 5, right? So just remasters, and then a Wolverine game that already got taken out of 2024,
Yeah,
pushed into 25.
I think we all kind of knew that, though. I mean, honestly, I
Well,
don't
we
think anyone
definitely
really.
knew. We knew, but not we knew, right? But not the ponies. You could go look at any of my my replies and my tweets where these people are bringing up this game like they think it's coming out next year. It's wild, right? But that's also just showing you the level of competence that most of these people have. They don't know anything besides what some of these YouTubers tell them. But yeah, man, I honestly this game, I don't have any excitement for what it was gonna be, and the only way I would be excited is if Microsoft was doing it, but with I wouldn't want, like, one of their major teams doing it, if it's just gonna be the remaster or, like, the remake. Like, if they're just gonna barely change anything, then I don't want that. If it's gonna be like, "Hey, this is basically just the name Knights of the Old Republic 1, but it's gonna be, like, almost brand new," like a Fable situation where you're taking the
Or
old
how about
Fable
this?
name.
What if they took the line and they drew it where it was like a Final Fantasy VII remake? Because Final Fantasy VII remake is incredibly different than Final
That would
Fantasy
be enough of a
VII.
change for
Yeah.
a good for them to put on, like, an Obsidian or one of their other, you know, top tier developers that we have under the umbrella. Um or go buy somebody who's really good at doing these remakes and bring them on board and have them do it. But yeah, that would be dope. It would have to be a essentially a different game. A
Yep.
game that you wouldn't recognize. If you put them two together, you wouldn't think they were the same game type deal. That's the level that it would have to be. Like a Final Fantasy 7 versus the remake. You put them together, aside from, looking at a sword or whatever, that the graphics, everything is so different. Um, yeah, that would be good. But
Yeah.
outside
No,
of that,
I agree. I agree.
I would need to see it. Like that would get me excited. Seeing it would get me excited.
Yeah,
Just
and not a
having
cutscene either. You mean like actual? Let me show
Yeah,
us what the
like
game is
in
going to look
game.
like. Yeah.
Like look at
Let
what
us
the
see what
game
this.
exactly. That
Yeah.
I would be like, wow, okay, that's exciting. Outside of that, they already it's the name not for nothing. For me, it already kind of got a little tarnished with this whole thing with Sony and with PlayStation
Spire.
and Aspire and this whole back and forth. It's kind of like it's already a little dirty. You know what I'm saying? So
No, it
best bet
makes
is to
sense.
get
I
it.
mean, obviously there is they're gonna polish this up and put a nice spin on it. But that's why I think that the fact that instead of letting the remake just die on a vine, Microsoft does what they've done before: swoop in and say, okay, you know what,
Yes.
we're going to add some money to this. We're going to add some development talent to this. We're going to add time to this. There's no rush to get this out. You'll get it when it's done. And because
Facts.
we have so many games in, that we're working on, there is no rush for this game. So let's get Daniel's final opinion on this, and then we'll get everybody out here to continue on your Tuesday. Daniel, is this an opportunity for Xbox to pick up the fumble from Sony? Oh, you're
Silence
muted.
is crazy, Daniel.
Might be muted, Danny.
Yeah. Nope. We don't hear. Okay, there you go. So hold on just a second.
There we go.
Yeah, we go.
There we
There.
go. Sorry, Streamlabs forgot that my mic existed because
Oh yeah, that
why
happens every
should
now and again.
why should
Yeah.
things go correctly? Also, my power went out a minute ago, which is like,
Oh, that sucks. I'm glad you got your
Oh,
power
well,
back.
that blows.
yeah, it just like does that sometimes. So, my apartment is really good at making sure that all of our facilities work correctly. Anyway, it is one of those situations where it could be something that would be really good for Xbox if they could find a place for it to fit into their existing roadmap. I think it's going to be tough because they weren't expecting to have this, I'm sure. And so if they are considering this, they would have to go to their teams to figure out like who's free, who can do this. Does it make sense for us to pivot to this right now? And I think there's a lot of good reasons why they could. It is one of the best games ever made, and so re-releasing it on your platform potentially as an exclusive or times exclusive could be really big for them. And so I do think it could be worth it. They just have to make sure that it makes sense for them in terms of time and team management and all that. Whenever Aspire was like, we're the ones working on this, I remember being like, who? And then not really feeling super hyped about it. I remember that they were saying something along the lines like they wanted to switch it to be more action-y so that it was like the Final Fantasy VII remakes. And I was like, don't. So I don't know. We would have to see like what they would actually do with it, what they would change, what they would keep the same, before I would feel particularly excited about it. But I do think that Microsoft has multiple teams that could do a really great job with it.
Yeah.
I think it's really disappointing for me that this turned out to be the one remake that like isn't going to happen and is being, is not good, because it's a game that I very, very much wanted. Meanwhile, we're getting remakes of everything, most of them that don't even need it. So welcome to my personal hell.
Oh.
They got him again.
No,
those ninjas. There you go.
I just stopped. I was done with my point.
Oh, okay.
Did you really just stop talking for a second?
Like it seemed like
he was.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So okay.
It seemed too pointed. I thought that the internet ninjas gotcha. Look, folks. At the end of the day, I think that from an optics point of view, right? It was bad optics for Xbox, who we ultimately didn't know passed on it because of who was working on it, and obviously Sony swooped in and like, oh no, we'll take on this, absolutely, and they did it for the reason of, well, this used to be an Xbox game. I'm sure that was the motivation behind it. This is an opportunity to have a Star Wars game, a beloved Star Wars IP remade. Let's get in on the ground floor on this. And obviously, they're in a bit of a pickle right now financially. They have a lot of change that came the way of leadership. That change is still happening. They had a lot of layoffs. They're trying to tighten the belt, which is unfortunate for the poor developers that lost their gigs. Hopefully, other people in the industries open their doors for them, because Sony does have a lot of talented people that were laid off. And as a human being, I'd love to see them get rehired. I mean, that's what you want. But this particular situation is one of those deals that does not come around very often. And, this is a beloved classic, iconic IP for Xbox. And they didn't want any part of it. And obviously, now that Sony has backed out, it's dead. So if they could figure out a way, like Daniel was saying, and it's perfectly said, if they can figure out a way to find the team and find it in their financials to get this game made, even if it takes 5 years from now, the announcement that they have now taken over development and then attach a studio to it would be a really, really big deal for Xbox Game Studios. It would be a great talking point for them. And I'm here for it because I love Knights of the Old Republic. And you know what? They have a studio that they happen to own that worked on Knights of the Old Republic 2 that was just as good, and some people even consider it better than the original. So if Obsidian is up for it and they see this happening, this is kind of right place, right time. And I would love, I think it'd be a great story, a great comeback story for an IP that everyone has been clamoring for, either a sequel in a KOTOR 3 or an actual remake of 1 and potentially 2. And if Obsidian does it, well, I mean, they could remake 1, and if it's on the lines of Final Fantasy VII Remake, that would be dope, and that would ultimately open up for them to return to a game that they made all those years ago. And again, I think this just has so many powerful, fun things you can talk about with this story. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for today's show. We have a good friend of the channel, Hargi Chani, who drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, Happy Thanksgiving to those in the United States. And Hargi, thank you, brother. And obviously, we will reconvene tomorrow night on Primetime Gaming. I'm working on that show right now. I think we're going to talk about what's happening at OpenAI because, wow, more stuff has come out in the last 24 hours, and it's crazy what's going on over there, and how Microsoft could actually, who has 49% of the of the stock, could do some sort of I don't know if it's a hostile takeover, but we know that 505 people of the 700 working there have threatened to leave if the board doesn't resign. So there's a lot to get into. We're going to cover that in something. I'll figure out a second story for tomorrow night's Primetime Gaming at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, we are taking off Thursday for Thanksgiving, but I have an amazing panel for Friday morning's Breakfast with Boom. I have Pong Soul. I got Mav from Fun Speculation. I have Fuzzy Belvedere, and I Steal Rain from Living Split Screen, and we're all going to converge. And you know what? One of the topics that we're going to talk about that I do almost every year, and I love having this conversation, is what we are grateful for in gaming for 2023, and that is going to have a lot of context because, quite frankly, as gamers, we're spoiled. There is so much to play, and there's so much goodness. I love having those kind of conversations because they're fun. You don't know what everyone's going to say. And, of course, whatever happens for the remainder of the week, we will talk about that as well. Let's get to the outros. Infinite Umbra, you got to get to sleep, my man, because you were up all night working, and now it's time to get some shut-eye over in Chi-Town. By all means, sell the brand of the fix. Where could people subscribe to that incredible YouTube channel that you have put together? And you have a show each and every week with Danny McGee. Talk about it, brother. Sell the brand, and where could people reach out to you on social media?
Yes, so you guys can find me on Twitter X, Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite. You will find me either way. If you're wondering why does my voice sound so much more manlier now,
did you take some NyQuil or something?
I took some Mucinex.
Oh, that will do it. That will do it.
Yeah, I expect to be KO'd in about 3 minutes or so. So
don't lie, man. You're in character, right? You're just staying in character. You're like Leonardo DiCaprio,
absolutely.
Right? You give your all in your role, and
absolutely.
You won't leave your character until you're done with your voiceover work.
You get it.
I feel you. I get
it. And speaking of voiceover work, I do want to promote that as well. For the channel, of course, The Fix. You can subscribe to me there. I put it in the chat. And thank you guys in the chat for being here with us and holding us down. Thank you guys on the panel, of course, and Boom. I have a table read coming up for the Halo 2. And it's
you're going to be working with who was the other voice that was on one?
Yes,
dude, that's amazing.
Yeah, yes. You guys know Silent Cypher, of course.
Yeah, of course. That guy's got one of the best voices in the business, right along with you. You guys have very unique voices.
We have a deep voice off whenever we get into an Xbox party. we challenge each other. I'm like my voice is deeper. But no, his is naturally deep. But pause. But yeah. So I brought him in on the table read because I saw Shane Bailey posting about it. Shane, if you all don't know, is an ex-Ubisoft developer and everything like that, and he runs this cancer charity called Cure for Cancer. And so I've hosted it on the Fix before, me and Danny, and we raised actually $250 for it. So I was actually really happy about that. And that's important to me as well because my grandmother,
of course, bro, that's giving back. That's amazing.
Absolutely. My grandmother, she, the rest of the soul, she passed away from that. So that does matter to me. Right here, this also will be going toward the charity this Saturday, November 25th. And I am playing again Tartarus. And I don't want anyone, again, I've said this before, I don't want anybody to take me as a black man playing the space monkey Tartarus and take that and to be too political with it.
I hope no one does. Good grief.
But yeah, I would love for you guys to come through and support us for that. I am going to have a ball. I'm very excited to do this. I know Silent Cypher is excited to do it. if you guys can come through, if you have anything you can donate toward it, I don't care if it's $1.
Yeah, drop that link in here, brother, and obviously, we'll help promote that.
If you guys are following me on Twitter, I'll post about it again before the time happens, so you all can go there, because I think Shane is going to host it off his Twitch channel. So definitely hope that some of you guys can come through, and if not even to donate, if you can't, you don't have the funds, I understand, but to hear us do a little of the voices, and I've been practicing and stuff like that. That's why you heard me do that earlier. I've been trying to get the gruff right for Tartarus, So I'm getting there. As you can hear the gruff appearing and the High-Ox, noble High-Ox of truth and mercy. I have brought the incompetent.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I'm getting there with it,
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Maybe 343 hears this and says, "We have to hire this man."
Hey.
I'd love it.
Hey, don't get me excited. I would love that, but so, and I do want to get into voice acting at a point. So I just say that though to say, if you guys can come through and if you can donate, even better. Either way, just to give put some eyes on it. If you guys can share it out once I put it on my Twitter profile again, if you guys can share it out for me, I would appreciate that a lot. And we're gonna have fun. Yeah. Oh, for the fix, we might not have it this week. I'm trying to see if I can do something for tomorrow. Maybe as a special. I don't know.
That'd be cool.
I don't know, unless somebody here on the panel want to invite me to their podcast. I don't know. I know they host it on Wednesdays now. I don't know if they want to invite me to.
Not this week. Not this week. I'm not hosting on Wednesday. Nah, we got 6 kids, man. We gotta prepare for Thanksgiving. It takes so long.
Yeah,
so I bet it does.
We might not have a show this week, but I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the chat, and of course to you fellas here as well. So see you guys later.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Appreciate you being here. See Money, obviously, sell the brand of you and the missus and the kids. You guys do a family podcast as well as a bunch of other amazing content each and every week on your channel. Talk about it. Sell the brand to the folks where they can subscribe and help you get past your next personal goal for the channel, as well as, of course, subscribe and reach out to you on social media.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you again, Boom, for having me here. Appreciate it. Love our Tuesday meetings over here. We have a good time, get to chill. Love hanging with our boys Infinite and Danny. So it's a good time, man. It's a good time. So definitely appreciate y'all. Right by my name, you can see it says at C Money Forever. I would love for you to come follow me over on Twitter or X or whatever your heart desires. We're building up over there. It's pretty cool. If you like to see ponies get roasted, then definitely come follow me, because we have a good time out in the streets for sure. Yeah, we have our YouTube channel, On Point for Gamers. Let me drop the link real quick. But yeah, that is our YouTube channel. We do 4 shows a week typically. This week we're taking one off because of the holiday. But we normally start our weeks on Monday with Morning Quest. It's 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. It's with my wife Doodle and myself. We have a great time, having talk gaming. Start the week right? Like we all love gaming. It's great to start the week the right way. So we definitely do that. Tuesdays is our big show day. We have her, him, and a guest. If you missed it last week, I suggest you go back and check it out. We had our boy Tim Dog from Twitter fame. Definitely super dope dude. Definitely be worth to check out. He's a really cool guy. I got a lot of insight from him. He has a lot of knowledge, man, and he's been around for a long time in the Twitter Xbox game. So definitely check that out. Today we have the privilege and honor to have our boy who's in the chat right now, Hargeet Chani, coming through. It's gonna be 5 p.m. Eastern, which is about 2.5 hours from now. So definitely come through and show some love. He's a dope dude. So I'm really excited for this. Been waiting for this one for a while. So definitely excited for that. Normally our shows are On Point the Gaming Podcast. The show's normally on Wednesdays at what time are we doing? 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Eastern time. But not this week. It is Thanksgiving for us, and we spend, a lot of time preparing for our feast that we do. When there's 8 people, it's a feast, right? So
yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's just the 8 of us, but we go we go hard on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
so
Mrs. Boom has been preparing since yesterday, and of course I'm the sous chef. I don't make anything. I just help her prepare.
Oh yeah. You're not allowed. I can't
I'm not
even
allowed,
look at things too hard. I just got to listen immediately and intently, right, with no delay.
I'm on potato peel duty. Usually that happens by Wednesday. So
yeah. Thankfully, I got 2 growner kids who also help out with the party. So it's not just me anymore. Online duty. So there's the 3 of us. But no, and Doodle runs a tight ship. But yeah, so this week we're not gonna have our show on Wednesday. We're actually gonna move it to Friday. That's gonna be at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. It's gonna be at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So Umbra, if you want to show up for that one, for sure you could do that. We might have our boy Crazy Louie on there. And we are for the first time going to be having our boy, the new legal, is going to be joining us on Friday. And I will tell you, it's not going to be pony friendly, I would say. It's not that one. Not that one. So I would say probably not that one too much, but we're going to have a good time. It's going to be spicy. It's going to be a great way to give thanks for our Xbox brothers who are out there fighting the good fight for us.
Fighting the good fight, indeed.
The good fight, indeed. But normally on Fridays at 6 p.m. is On Point Anime and Beyond. So we do 4 shows. This week, just 3, and we're just going to be doing a gaming show on Friday. Again, Umbra, free to definitely come by. Just let me know if you want to. But outside of that, guys, definitely show up tonight, 5 p.m. Our homie, Hargi Chani. Let's be there. It's going to be good.
Yep. Looking forward to it, brother. Of course, thank you for being a part of this show each and every week. And last and no way least, Daniel McG. By all means, sell your brand, brother. Talk about the best place for long and short content. One of which, if you are a DCEU fan and you want to see a potential rewrite of what James Gunn should actually do, you should tune in, subscribe, and more importantly, check him and Infinite Umbra out on the fix each and every week. Brother, where could people do that? And more importantly, potentially strike up a conversation on social media?
Well, you can find me on social media on Twitter at Daniel J. McG or at my personal YouTube channel of Daniel McG. We've been putting up a good amount of content lately for the first time in a while because I've got a little bit of a break at work. So It's going well. Have a lot of time to actually write stuff. So we're making a lot of progress on a lot of things that have been very hotly anticipated over on that channel. So come by and watch it.
Definitely appreciate that, brother. And we love what you're doing. Of course, thank you so much for being here as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us here on the Xbox Factor podcast. Shout out to Hargeet Chani, who dropped a code. I didn't know that. And Balatone, who's been a channel member for 9 months, says Hargeet dropped a code GazDad for the win. Thank you for the generosity as always, Hargeet, and thank you for the heads up, Balatone. As I was, welcoming and saying, happy Thanksgiving to people, I missed that in the chat. So thank you for that as well. And of course, a big thank you to all of the super chats and all of the channel memberships that continue to come in. We are incredibly grateful and humbled by the generosity of this community. And of course, we're going to give back in a big way for the holidays. More to come for the 2024, but for the remainder of this year, we do have one big giveaway that is not corporate sponsored, that is literally for the people, by the people, and that is you. We are giving away on our 6th annual Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. Boomstick, $1,500 in prizes. It is the most money the channel has ever given away in its 6th year of existence. And that's going to be in 2 hours on a Breakfast with Boom right before the Christmas holiday. And we're going to do it the week before. So just in case you win one of these prizes and you want to gift someone in your family or buy something for one of your loved ones with the money, you have the time in order to do it. Because obviously, giving back is something that is a really big deal for me and Mrs. Boom. And we're giving away 10 $100 gift cards to your choice of platform. And we have recently added Steam to be a part of that. So it's Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, and of course, Nintendo eShop. And 2 mega grand prize winners are going to walk away with one I mean, we'll walk away with each of a $250 gift card to, of course, your platform of choice. And like I say all the time, we are one of the few shows that will represent and send those award-winning members, even if you're outside of the country. Yes, it takes a little to get there, but we do use PayPal, and we could, in fact, if you win, and let's say, for instance, you're in London, or let's say, I don't know, India, we will get you the money. The only way that works, though, is if we use PayPal and you have a PayPal account, because we do not use any cash apps to keep us financially safe. And of course, with that said, I'm going to close out the show, folks, with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son, I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So have a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully your tables are plentiful with family, friends, and loved ones, and you eat yourself into a potential stupor, which is what I'm going to do. And I don't care, because I'm 53 and I'm going to enjoy life. And of course, we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. Take care, everyone. Have a great holiday.